Okay, council, I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's 5:56, Mr. Clerk. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Delegations, we have one. Mr. Stephen Kimmer from Sport Aurora in regards to the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex Gymnasium construction, which is in our binder, tab 7. Mr. Kimmer, can you state your name? And you'll have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name's Stephen Kimmer. I'm president of Sport Aurora, and I live at 48 Devons Drive. Tonight, the subject of the development of an additional gym at the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex will be discussed. The gym was part of the original project footprint, but was deemed too expensive to continue when the SARC was originally being developed. The minutes from the last Praxa committee dealing with the gym construction was delivered to the members of that committee January 3rd, 2019. To quote from them, one, the roundtable discussion, regarding facility fit for the new multi-sport facility, staff provided an update regarding the proposed new multi-purpose sport facility, including an overview of the possible supportable facility types, amenities within each facility, consultation with Sport Aurora, plans for public consultation, and updates on the facility design development. The committee discussed various aspects of the proposed facility types with respect to the growing needs of the town population, sports tourism, and funding model for the project. A motion was put forward and moved by Richard Dowse and seconded by Reg Chappell, saying that the comments and discussion regarding the facility fit for the new multi-sport facility be referred to staff for consideration and actions as appropriate. Unfortunately, this motion does not accurately reflect the concerns presented at that meeting put forward by Sport Aurora. And since Sport Aurora has not been invited back to sit on the newly reformatted Community Service Committee, it is important to us that the comments made at that time are considered, and thus our delegation tonight. The gymnasium is supported by Sport Aurora, as is all facility development that is included in the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Master Plan. However, at that meeting, the assistance on the multifunctional nature of the gym was of utmost importance, as was the size and the ability of the gym to be used as a competition venue with appropriate spectator seating. These issues were foremost in the discussions and argued for by Sport Aurora members at the Praxa Committee. Further, we believe it is imperative that a study is done on this expensive addition town facility inventory. In particular, and because of the location of the facility, surveying the local residents to ensure that this gym provides multicultural opportunities for sport and physical activity is accomplished. Sport Aurora has done surveying of our 42 member organizations and would consider it something that must be done to ensure the needs of all sports. Secondly, the size of the gym should be seriously considered, as the original 6,000 square foot footprint, in our opinion, is not adequate to include a competitive service with spectator comfort. It should be noted that a basic basketball court between the lines is 84 feet by 50 feet, which is 4,200 square feet. The 1,800 left over from the 6,000 doesn't make for an awful lot of space or added functionality. We recognize some of the limitations of the site, but not only should facilities be built with utility in mind, but also with spectators and sports tourism as added additional priorities. Perhaps the money spent on this SARC addition could be better used at an alternate site that could accommodate these needs. We understand that staff is investigating different options and sites, as we were informed at a recent meeting Sport Aurora had with the mayor and the CAO, and we applaud this investigation. Sport Aurora encourages staff and council to fully explore their options and perform their due diligence before committing to this important addition to the town facility inventory. On a personal note, this will probably be the last time I address this council, my role as president of Sport Aurora. As per our constitution, my term is up, and our vice president, Sandra Manhurst, will take over as president at our AGM in March. I want to thank the members of the previous council for their support over the last 4 years. The relationship between Sport Aurora, the town staff, and council was productive and mutually respectful. We hope the good work that we have performed and the great programs we have developed for our town over the last 14 years will continue to be appreciated, and that our expertise and experience will be sought after as the present council takes a larger leadership role in sport in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmer. Is there any comments or questions? Actually, first a motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Humphrey, seconded by Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner, just before I go to you, Mr. Kimmer, I just wanted to state thank you very much for all the work that you've done as president of Sport Aurora. The leadership that you've shown has been extraordinary, and we thank you for everything that you've done, not only for Sport Aurora, but for our community. I just wanted to mention that we're not really deciding anything tonight. This is just a placeholder, and we will have a future report that's coming with more details where council will actually discuss the actual physicality of the gymnasium and the possibility of what we do. So, but yeah.
That our concerns have been heard.
No, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad you did come, because I was supposed to go that one step further and say that, considering you might not, you as you mentioned, you won't be president, then when that report comes, you won't be speaking. So it's great to have you come here and actually speak on this issue. So, because I know you were there at the at the committee when we discussed this, so it's great to get your perspective as well. So thank you, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, and perhaps you don't know this, but I was sitting in the council chamber when this was being discussed about the gymnasium, and that gymnasium, the only purpose of that gymnasium was to be part of a youth center, and in fact, it was almost the whole youth center, and there were some meeting rooms, and because it was a youth center, there was going to be no parking required. So even though the gymnasium was discussed, it was discussed in a very different context than we're discussing now.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Stephen, for all your hard work over the past year and a half, 2 years as president? 4 years as president. Time flies. And certainly congratulations to Sandro as being incoming. Great points. As you know, last term we talked a lot about Bloomington and the possibilities there. That seems at this point to have stalled, and so we certainly are exploring all options. And while this is a placeholder, there are multiple conversations going on about what may or may not come of this property. So thank you for your ideas and thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Humphreys.
I do, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to say again, thank you very much for all your hard work as president of Sport Aurora, and I know that the newly incoming president will be wonderful and learn a lot from what you've done. Sorry, Italian. I just wanted to mention that what Sport Aurora has brought forward to us tonight, and always we hold in high regard and take the messages seriously, and they'll be looked at and considered when these decisions are being made. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you, Stephen, for your 4 years as well. And I know that throughout the 4 years, and certainly through the latter half, sometimes it's not always been you've been always been honest. And I think when two parties are honest, even if it's even abrasive, I find it constructive, because you can't have tea and crumpets and expect to get much done. And so I appreciate you being forthright and telling it like it is, and so I appreciate that. I know we're not going to be talking about the any decisions on the gym, but seeing that you brought it up, based on your measurements, what type of an audience would you have in the peripheral? Like, what type of capacity from an audience perspective can you have?
Mr. Kimmer?
Actually, to you, Mr. Mayor, I've done some research on community gyms, specifically in the United States, and the largest gymnasiums, basketball-specific gymnasiums, but they're also multi-sport. Of the top 20, 18 are in Indiana, and their capacity ranges from 9,000 to 7,000 people. And they probably sell out every Friday night. Now, I'm not looking at that. What we're looking for, is the ability for a venue to host a championship game at a tournament and have people in the stands to watch it. You've got Storm Volleyball that has multiple championships and tournaments, and you've got basketball coming in and doing the same thing. So we have to have more facility allows people to come watch. All right, simple. Whether you have pull-out stands, I'm not sure. It depends on the size. But 6,000 doesn't leave. If the footprint right now is 6,000, that leaves you 1,800 square feet to put stuff in, and that's not an awful lot. All right.
Councillor
Right.
Kim?
Great, thank you for the illustration.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kimmer.
All right, thank you very much.
All those in favor to receive? Opposed? That carries. All right, Council, move into consideration of items. First, we're going to start with binder tab 7, but before I start, I know we all pulled items after our last, just before the finish of our last meeting. I am going to ask Councillor Thompson, since he wasn't here, in case there are some items that he would like to pull that are not pulled. Councillor Thompson?
Just 8-10, the user fee policy.
8-10?
User fee pricing study.
Okay. Is everything else is good? You want to take one off, Councillor Humphreys? We can just, when we get to it, we can just approve it. Yeah, we'll just green light it and make it quick. That's fine. Thank you, appreciate that. So we'll start off with 7.3, the Sark Gymnasium. And Councillor Gardner, you pulled this in. I'll just remind everyone that this is just a placeholder, and we will be dealing with this issue with a later report. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wonder if we should do a full evaluation of what we do need and look at this in that context.
And I believe that's what staff is doing. They're looking at all options, and they're going to be presenting that to us in a report. And that's why I
Thank you.
reiterated that this is just a placeholder for the time being. So if you'd like to put yellow, conditional,
Yes, that's fine.
thank you. Second, Councillor Humphreys. Any comments or questions on that? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 7.6, Library Square. And I'll just remind council, this one's pretty much the exact same issue. We're going to have a report. We have our special meeting coming in March 21st that is going to be coming before us, where we will be discussing this. This is just a placeholder. So I'm not sure if there's any questions. If there's questions to why it's a placeholder, maybe that's something that we can discuss. You'll move yellow. Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. In March, are we going to be approving everything?
It's possible. It's possible that we approve. It's possible that we deny. It's possible that we go back and ask for
other
changes. I mean, I can't foresee into the future how the meeting's going to turn out. I wish I could.
I was just wondering if that was the intention.
Well, I'd say the intention's to, well, Mr. Seo.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We would hope to have some form of moving the project forward. It's expected that the best we could achieve would be the approval to go ahead with detailed design based on the characteristics that council agrees they want to see in the facility. It would still come back to council for the final funding and once we know the tender amount.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's going to be something repetitive for me this evening, just having thought a lot about all of these after our meeting, and also just doing a little bit of research on what other municipalities do in terms of the reports presented to council as far as capital items. And I think it would behoove us to maybe take a look at what other municipalities do, particularly Richmond Hill to the south. There's business plans that are attached to all of their capital items. And having said that, I'm going to be particularly especially with all of the ones that I pulled, I can tell you right now I would be suggesting a yellow. And all of the remaining ones, I would be suggesting the same. So you won't be hearing very much from me unless something goes astray. I want all these things coming back to me with a full report. And I suspect the information is there. And I suspect staff have done the work already. I just don't have it in front of me, at least to the level that I would expect.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Gallo. Any others? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have 7-8, the Cultural Services Master Plan. Councillor Gardner, you pulled that one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought we had a cultural services policy. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall.
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. With regards to the master plan, as we all know, the master plan was approved back in 2014. It sort of, for a time or a period of time, it was not acted upon for a little while. We did come back in last spring and hosted a workshop with our cultural partners to sort of reignite it. And we presented a report to council identifying priorities that we wanted to focus and start working on. We came in September and asked to access the Cultural Master Plan funding so that we could bring in a consultant to work with us and sort of develop that action plan, what's to come back. So the expectation is I'd be back to council with our next steps of the implementation of our Cultural Master Plan. So this is request here is a placeholder. I wouldn't suggest that there is a policy already in place. It's the master plan that is guiding us of what our objectives are now. And being that it was an 14 study, we want to just make sure as our cultural partners continue to work with us that we are continuing to reprioritize, relook at it. It's been 5 years, so it's important that we revisit those. And that's what the consultant was brought on to help guide council and how to prioritize through the master plan as it was established. Because it's a solid document, it's just 5 years ago is a bit different than today.
Thank you.
Councillor Gardner?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through to Ms. McDougall. Just to refresh my memory, we started this either a year or 2 years ago, setting aside $100,000 as a wage, as a placeholder for future initiatives. How much do we have sitting? 100 or 200? 1 year, 2 years? And I guess we assume that we haven't spent anything to date?
Ms. McDougall?
7, 8? 7, 8? Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing. The only thing that's spent to date is the consultants' fees that we're working with right now that worked with us for the Cultural Partners Workshop last spring, and they're working with us right now on the development of the action plan going forward and for the Library Square organizational review and helping us prepare the business plan for the grant application. So spent to date, I'd have to look to verify the figure, but those would be the only expenditures to date, the consultant support.
And
Councillor
we
Thompson?
set up a separate reserve account for this amount, or is it just coming out of general? Or as it says here, the hydro sale?
Is it a separate reserve?
I guess I'm curious about how we're accounting for it. If last year we set aside 100,000, but there's no real reserve account associated with it and we're drawing from it, how do we?
Through you,
Ms.
Mr. Mayor.
McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There is a GL specific to this project. There is a dedicated line item that we would be drawing from.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner? Do you want to speak?
Thank you. It's $840,000. Is that a normal price for a? I mean, it's a master plan. Are we also then going to implement that master plan with that money?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That would be typically the case. You would be using these funds not just to fund the master plan itself, but also the implementation. So I can't speak to the evaluation of that figure that was put in place as a placeholder. Okay. At this point, we will continue to revisit that amount and to understand its justification. At this point, the request this year is just to continue as we are working towards the implementation. And again, action plans are coming to council shortly, so I'll be able to give you a more firm next steps in that funding requirement as we go forward from here.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. So we're approving $100,000 in this budget year, and what happens in the future, we're not sure at the moment.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. McDougall, the cultural master plan, which was last visited, prior to our last term, but it seems like there were some. I'm hearing that hasn't been touched in 5 years, and now we're, part of this budget is about implementation. But there were a couple of items I thought that there was some kind of implementation like that, partnership with the Central Counties Tourism, and we did some, cultural mapping to identify, certain cultural hubs. Would that not be considered as implementation?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly, those would be elements as far as strategies go. At a cost, no. Those would be things that, with the recommendations that are in the master plan, often they're more of a high-level objective, and that could be developing partnerships, developing relationships with our current partners, and those are ongoing regardless. Where you're going to see a cost is if there's an actual implementation or something structural, another study or a plan that requires a cost. At this point, this cost is more placeholder, and again, I'd be coming back with an action item to that. Public art is another piece that would be as an action item.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely is going to have a cost to it. There's some strategy around that yet that has to be finalized. So there's a few things that we could say as a check mark we can have achieved, but there's still a ton of work to be done on the master plan.
Councillor Kim?
Okay, great, thank you. No, I thought that in a couple of town activities, I thought we marketed in the Central Counties Tourism as part of their marketing material, so I thought there might have been a cost to that in the past, but, going forward in terms of budgeting for implementation, I'm fine with that.
Ms. McDougall?
Sorry, I'll add, thank you through Mr. Mayor. Again, as an example, one of the objectives in the master plan would have been about multicultural opportunities or cultural initiatives or events, trying to engage or expand. And obviously in the last couple of years, we've initiated that and are working to expand that aspect. That's in its own separate budget. That's an events budget. Promoting that through Central Counties Tourism would be handled through that events budget, marketing, promotions. It's not coming out of this type of an implementation.
Okay, great, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Someone want to put something forward? Councillor Thompson?
I'll move yellow.
Yellow?
And the reason why I move yellow is because it's just a placeholder. We're not identifying a specific spend, and so I think anything that comes out of this fund needs to have a report associated with it.
Definitely. Councillor Kim, did you want to speak or did you want to second it? Second it? Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, moving along. 7:10. Bylaw permit parking program. Councillor Humphreys, you move it as yellow. And green? Did you want to speak to it? No? Anyone want to second that? Green? Councillor Thompson, anyone want to speak to this? No? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 7:11. Project management software. Councillor Kim, you pulled that one. Do you want
Thank
to
you.
move something first? Or
Yeah, I'll move a green, please.
Green? Okay. Second it? Councillor Humphreys. Go ahead, Councillor Kim.
Okay, thank you. So if Ms. Van Leeuwen could just walk us through what this management software, how that would work for us as a town, that'd be great.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is a key priority in moving forward with our project management office, and it would be a centralized repository of all projects within the organization. The benefits include project planning, tracking, budgeting, scheduling, dashboard, performance. So there are many benefits to a project management tool, and all project managers across the organization will be trained and will have a single source of information.
Councillor Kim?
Great, thank you. And if we were to have a larger scale project in mind, would this management software be able to handle larger scale projects that we would handle internally?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
Yeah, and would this be something that we could leverage? And I know that the more licenses from a software perspective, the less it usually costs. Is this something that we could share with our cultural partners or other partners of the town, like whether it be the library or the cultural center, or is that not something that's relevant for them?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't explored those types of relationships or partnerships. What we currently really need is a project management software internally that would give us, again, a single source of the truth, and that we'd be able to obtain timely and accurate reporting from.
Councillor Kim?
Great. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson?
I guess through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen. Ms. Van Leeuwen, earlier we approved almost $1 million to upgrade our financial system and our reporting system. And so is there no software through that whole suite of financial reporting tools that could not mirror what you're looking for in project management? Do we need a whole separate system?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure we're quite there with the financial system as of yet. So that will be in the future, so it's a little bit of an unknown. This software is critical to moving forward with our standardized corporate project management office.
I guess what I'm saying is, but we're moving ahead with financial software because it's approved for the 2019 capital budget of $800,000. We part of the R&R. And so now we have a separate piece of software for project management. And one of the things I've heard over the years is that we have multiple systems with multiple spreadsheets doing multiple things, which creates confusion within the organization. And so I thought through the financial piece, we were looking for some consolidation. And so again, now we seem to have two separate pieces of software. So as the exercise to look at project management, could we not see if we can incorporate it into the single software we're setting up for financial management as one of the suites and tools? Because to me, part of project management is taking care of the costs of the project. And so there's got to be either some integration or correlation with that software as well, instead of having two separate systems. So I'm concerned that we have two separate capital projects going on, and I'd like to see it as one. That's my point.
I'll take that as a comment, or did you?
Yeah, it's just a comment. Okay. I mean, I just got to think if you're going to spend $1 million on a financial system, that it may have components that allow you to do this project management. I don't know, but I just want it investigated. I'm not saying no to this, but I'm concerned about having two separate systems here.
So I'm hearing you'd probably move to a yellow on this one. Well, but I'll let our CAO answer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a couple of challenges. I mean, a very full enterprise management system would have costing components to it, of course, for projects. It may not have the same level of sort of granular task management of the individual integration of like the tender milestones and some of that other work. If it did, I'm not sure. So it may be that the software would be capable of that if we chose the right solution. I would think, though, that given the priorities of a new financial management system for this organization, it would quite frankly be years before you would go to that phase to do the project management piece. There's other components like payroll and budget and other areas that are right now separate systems that we really need to integrate for an organization our size. And so this would be quite a ways down the list, even if the software did have that capability. So I would think that what we'd want to do, based on that comment, is just to satisfy ourselves that this software project would be able to report to that system for the cost accounting portions.
Councillor Thompson?
And that's fine. As long as there's a rationale that it's explored and looked at, or at least there's some flexibility. I mean, we've had conversations before where we go with a particular vendor and we're locked in forever because they're the only people that can supply the technology, the parts, the support, the service. And it would be unfortunate if we lock ourselves into a particular piece of software whereby the full suite, yes, maybe it takes 3, 4, 5 years or whatever it is, can mirror that function as well, but we're locked in with somebody else. I just wanted, as part of the consideration, as while we're doing our due diligence, we keep in mind that we got multiple things happening from an IT perspective, and it would be great to have some integration.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really good suggestions from Councillor Thompson, and I don't want to hold up the project management application. I know that the software is going to be different and geared to project management methodologies and PMP trained individuals, that we really need that part of it. And there's a financial piece that will probably link into the finance department. But when you're investigating your budget for the finance, just ask, okay, from a big picture perspective, are we going to be locked in? Can this this project application, can it delve into the can we spit out the report and make sure that the project's on time, on budget, reporting? I'm sure that's going to be that way. So just following up with that, and I'm sure you're going to do that. Just a question: do we use a PMP methodology today in-house? Do we have project management skills here? Like, do we have people with their PMP? And
Mr. CEO?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Council authorized us to add a component to the large projects
Yes.
and to fund a contract position for
Yep.
2 years to introduce project management to the organization. That individual is on board now and has been for a few months. And we actually rolled out the project management strategy and the approach that the town will be taking to the entire corporate management team last week.
awesome, thank you.
Councillor Humphreys?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I remembered that, and I'm really glad that we're there, and I think it's essential. And you can't do good project management without the tools to otherwise you're going to go back to spreadsheets and big mistakes and financial stuff that gets mixed up when you work that way. So the tool's pretty standard. I think municipalities probably have one focused with them, but other organizations, you know what I'm talking about. So there's a standard tool, and I think it will be able to link in. It's pretty flexible. It will be able to link into the IT department. So that's important. And really, that was all my question. Just when we're sourcing out, same as Councillor Thompson, is there any synergies from a hardware, software perspective that you can use if you're using the same vendor? I don't know how that's going to work, if they're even going to be. It could be, but you'll know more after you do yours. But that's it. Thank you. Great work on the certification and getting PMP out here. It's going to be a lot better.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Kim?
Thank you. I heard it touched briefly, but can you clarify, Ms. Van Leeuwen, whether there's any overlay opportunities or potential from the project management app to the financial management piece?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of integration, whenever we purchase software, we always look for the ability to integrate with other systems. So we will work with finance to ensure that this software tool is able to integrate with a financial system.
Councillor Kim?
Yes, great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I got a green approved on the floor. All those in favor? Hands up high. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. $712. The pumper for Fire Hall 45. Councillor Gardner, you pulled that one. Just to remind everyone, staff have recommended a green on this one.
Yes, and I've spoken with staff, and I'm fine with that. Thank
So you
you.
put a green on the floor? Thank you. Second, Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 714, 3-ton truck. Councillor Gallo.
Mr. Mayor, as I mentioned last meeting and repeated at the beginning of this meeting, we're doing a full study of fleet, and I don't see a rationale for moving forward with any new fleet until that study is absolutely complete.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Did you want to, you'll move a yellow? Do this, Councillor Gardner, second. Any comments or questions on this one? No? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 715. New snow blower attachments. Councillor Gallo, same thing? So you put a yellow on the floor? Seconded by Councillor Gardner. Councillor Kim.
Thank you. Given that we're all talking about the same theme with respect to fleet, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey, I know in previous reports there was always a cost analysis in terms of how much it would cost to repair a fleet item versus replacement. Has any of that analysis been done on any of the items that is before us in capital budget here?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The items you have before you are our growth and new items. These are items that we do not have at this point,
Okay, that's
and are looking at expanding our fleet. So if you recall, we brought forward a report to council last term with regards to the removal of snow from Yonge Street, and we're looking for alternative methods in order to do that, and we had identified a snowblower attachment in that report as opposed to the method that we are presently using. So this is further to that information that was provided in that report. I might also, if you don't mind, point out that the consultant report for vehicles is not dealing with growth or new equipment, but rather the equipment that we have right now and how long the life cycle or the appropriate life cycle should be on equipment before we look at replacement, and putting in some measures with regards to identifying that. So the consultant report did not envision determining what pieces of equipment we should be purchasing, but rather once we have purchased it, how we deal with that piece of equipment.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Downey, for clarifying that. So essentially, if you're saying that if for us putting a red or yellow light on this, it's really preventing the town from doing its service work, because the consultant work that we're going to be waiting for, it has no relevance to this decision. Is that correct?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. So if you purchase this equipment, the consultant report would then help us determine what the appropriate life cycle should be on that equipment, how much money we should be looking, is there any expertise with regards to the staff that we hire in order to deal with equipment. Those are some of the challenges that we are facing right now. This is all to deal with we have increased our road network, we've increased our park network, so we need equipment in order to continue our existing service levels.
Councillor Kim?
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that significant point. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, in the first paragraph, it talks about a Q1 tender and a Q2 delivery. So I'm assuming that we wouldn't take possession until April, May, June, which is Q2. So in all likelihood, and let's be positive, that there's going to be no big snowstorms in April, we wouldn't be using this until the end of the year. Is that correct?
That's correct. We would anticipate that this would be a piece of equipment for use in the 2019-20 winter season.
Councillor Thompson?
And so is there any perceived savings or value going out to tender early on this particular piece of equipment if we were to green light it now, as opposed to do a yellow conditional approval and get the go-ahead at some point later in the year?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, we have not researched the delivery time on this, so I can't answer that question. If it is an extended delivery time, for instance, if we're looking at buying a new snowplow, we're looking at almost 12 months. So I don't believe that is the same with an attachment. I think it's be much shorter. So I don't know that there would be a jeopardy there. It's just that I wanted to make sure that this was being introduced as a service level and wasn't necessarily tied to a consultant report or any of those other things.
Sorry, I wasn't clear. Sometimes we seek, pre-approval, or we go out to tender early because there's a perceived savings in terms of the people that are bidding for the contract, like road work or whatever, because it's, let's call it off-season or less busy time. So I'm just curious whether there's any perceived savings if we were to tender this out in Q1 versus Q2 versus another time through
Through you,
this.
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe there would be.
So I'm fine with yellow.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have in front of me the fleet consultant, and I reread it because I read it before and because I think this point was brought up last time, and I wanted to see if I could identify anywhere in there that it spoke to only replacement items as opposed to new, and nowhere in there does it. I'm glad it's out in the open now because I think it actually should be. And why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be part of a consultant to review the entire fleet, including any new vehicles that we expect to purchase? Some of the items that were identified: staffing, supervision, and skills level, actual maintenance needs versus actual available resources, life cycle of equipment and vehicles. And there's another point there that's blacked out. I can't see it. I can see there's something there, but I can't read what it is. The concept is to fleet is a very reactionary versus proactive in its approach to business. I don't know how that could be any different for new purchases as opposed to existing replacement of existing purchases. So if the scope of the consultant needs to be expanded, I'm happy to entertain that.
So Councillor Gallagher, I'm going to ask our CAO, is there any reason, I guess the question is there any reason why new fleet isn't part of the scope of the consultant?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I think, and Mr. Downey will correct me if I get this wrong, but new fleet would be included from the point of view that once it's in our fleet, we would be considering it for maintenance and when it should be proactively maintained, what skills we should have on board versus contracting out for the servicing of that equipment. So it would be included that way. I believe the point that Mr. Downey was making about it not being included in the scope is that the intent of this consultant was not to go through piece by piece and say you should do a snow blower or a plow for this, or you should, get into some other form of equipment. That would be sort of a total fleet rationalization. So it's something that is sometimes done, but it's a much larger scope to actually go through and pick, because then you're looking at all of your job functions and the equipment that's required for those job functions, and your utilization of staff and equipment, and so it just gets to be much more complex. The original, I believe, the study that we had and wanted to do at this point was to lower our maintenance costs and provide rationale for a renewal strategy for all equipment. So once it comes into the fleet, it's automatically included in there. It's not that it's not included in the work. And I think, is that correct, Mr. Downey? Would that be a fair?
Mr. Downey?
So that's basically correct. One of the challenges that we're having right now is, as you're bringing equipment in, how many man hours are attributed to that piece of equipment for regular maintenance? And we should have that number. So we should know that we need X number of hours, man hours, in order to maintain our fleet. And then that should translate into the staff that we need. And then that should translate into the specialized staff we need. For instance, we just hired a new mechanic that deal with heavy equipment because we were contracting a lot of that out. And so we reduced our contracting out by bringing in-house someone who could deal with larger equipment. And so those are some of the challenges that we're facing right now, and some of the questions that I can't answer with regards to, we have 4 mechanics, so is 4 enough? Are they properly trained? Is there another method in which we could use in order to maintain our equipment? Such as outsourcing of a particular equipment so that we reduce our manpower. Those are some of the challenges that we would like to be able to address through the consultant report. We're pretty comfortable knowing that a wide area mower cuts grass, and those are the best ways of cutting grass, and so using that equipment as our inventory of grass grows, we're going to need more of that pieces of equipment in order to cut the grass, in order to maintain the service levels that have been identified and approved by council.
Councillor Gallo, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I really don't see why, and I'm almost certain, and I'll double check, that Richmond Hill went through this very process, including any new, a full scope fleet review. And I really don't see why that would be an issue to justify the need for additional equipment. And I'll go through one of them later on if you want, and question the necessity for that one. But I'm not sure I understand the resistance to having a consultant to review our entire fleet when we've identified multiple times in the corporate asset management plan, we identified that it's an issue. Why wouldn't we want someone to review the entire fleet?
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. This has to do with growth and new. And the Yonge Street project is included in this. How does that have to do with growth and new? And some of the roads that may not be affected by the growth in the 2Cs?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you recall from the report that we presented to council, this is a new service level, so that's why it's a growth item. If we already had one and we were replacing it, that would then go into the replacement file. But this is a piece of equipment that we don't presently have. We'd identified in the report as a service level that council would like consideration for. We got direction to place it in this budget and for your consideration. So if council wishes to move forward with that service level, then this capital item will address that.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I must have misunderstood. I thought it was an alternative way to bring the service. I didn't realize that it was an increase in the service level.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, in the report, if you recall, we had some challenges with regards to the removal of the snow.
Right.
And that we had identified this as an alternative, as well as another alternative we were looking at was the removal of the snow in the evening. And that was going to create some challenges with regards to noise and some notification requirements. And so we wanted to make sure council was aware of that. We have not moved forward with that nighttime at this point. We did remove snow last week from Yonge Street, and we did that during the day because the operation was, we were able to deal with it during the day. But it's not a fast method of removing that snow. It takes quite a bit of time. It takes quite a bit of equipment. We're always concerned about traffic. We're always concerned about pedestrian safety. The sooner we can get in, get the snow removed, and get out, the better we are. And this piece of equipment will allow us to do that.
Councillor Gardner?
So if I understand, you're saying that doing it at night will increase the service level because it won't disrupt the traffic during the day?
Mr. Downey?
Doing it at night is an alternative.
Right.
It's the same service level, so we're still
Okay.
removing snow from Yonge Street. We're just doing it in an alternative method in order to address some concerns with regards to safety. But then we generate issues with regards to noise. So that's the trade-off, and that's why we wanted to bring a report forward to council and certainly get your buy-in because we were concerned that there would be some pushback from residents who are living above storefronts in Yonge Street, saying they were woken up all night long with noise, and we wanted to make sure that council was aware that this was a method that we were looking at as an alternative, because as you can appreciate, we almost shut down a side of Yonge Street when we were removing that snow. That has a dramatic impact on the businesses that are along Yonge Street during that period of time. So this would be a preferred method. Even if we did it during the day, it's much quicker. We can be in and out that much faster.
Councillor Gardner?
So my mind is missing a link. So where is the increased service level?
It's with the equipment, not with the operation.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of yellow? Opposed? That carries. Next, new wide area mower. Councillor Gallo? Same?
Mr. Mayor, it's the same for all of them.
Yellow?
Yep.
I'm just going to ask you again, even though I know I'm
That's
just...
fine. I could speak to the last one on the
Okay.
list there.
So we got yellow second. Councillor Thompson, any comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 719, additional vehicle bylaw services. Councillor Gallo, same? Yellow? Second? Councillor Kim, comments or questions? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen. When I read through the project description, it just sort of triggered something. I just wanted to get your comments on it. It says to allow the purchase of a new hybrid sedan vehicle, which allow officers in the bylaw department to patrol the town for various bylaw violations. So my thought is, well, does that mean if we don't approve it, there are bylaw officers that cannot patrol the town? I mean, I don't mean to be facetious, but it just sounds like they're not able to do anything with it unless we purchase this car, which leads me to think, what are they doing right now?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, likely they're partnering in a vehicle or they're alternating doing some of their paperwork while the other vehicles are out patrolling. So as we increase our resources in terms of staffing and our scheduling, this would allow our officers to be out on the road at all times.
So then would it be fair to say that without this vehicle, we're not effectively utilizing their time?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, possibly, yes, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Thompson?
Okay.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify what this vehicle is going to be used for the bylaw department, one person in the vehicle, driving around town. It's not meant to pick up signs or anything other than driving a bylaw officer, or the bylaw officer driving the vehicle around town.
Ms. Van Leeuwen, can you give a description of what the vehicle would be utilized for?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a multitude of tasks. So responding to complaints, parking enforcement, supporting our other divisions where there may be fouling of our highways or snow maintenance occurring. Could be picking up signs across town. So it's a multitude of tasks.
Councillor Gallo?
The reason I ask is, as I mentioned before, I spent a little bit of time reviewing Richmond Hill's budget, and they're purchasing in the next 3 years 19 vehicles to similar use, perhaps not picking up signs, and I think we have larger vehicles if we really had to do that, and their budget is roughly $30,000 per vehicle. So in the next 3 years, they're purchasing 19 vehicles, and it came out to roughly $30,000 per vehicle. So I guess for me, it's a yellow and a justification of spending $60,000 for this vehicle.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Thompson's question wants me to ask another one. If these are new vehicles, are we also hiring new staff? I know, Ms. Van Leeuwen, this isn't for you directly, but maybe to Mr. CAO. If we are getting these new vehicles, are we also implying that we need new staff to run them?
Ms. Van
If it's
Leeuwen?
not, and it could be answered another time because it's a yellow, but yeah.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are not hiring new staff. This is to assist our current complement. Going forward, we would like to sort of move from part-time parking control to maybe full-time staff as we experience growth and demand and to meet community expectations. It's very difficult to keep part-time by law enforcement staff. It's a revolving door. So we're going to present perhaps next year's budget a business case to possibly convert some of those part-time hours to full-time complement.
Thank you. I look forward to that report.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 720, new trackless sidewalk utility vehicle. Councillor Gallo?
I'm going to say yellow for now. I have some questions, Mr. Mayor.
Can I get a seconder first? Second by Councillor Gardner. Go ahead, Councillor Gallo.
So this is a new trackless sidewalk utility vehicle. The objective is to include the town assuming one new additional sidewalk route in the 2C development area as an alternative to contracting the route to the private sector, as well as supplementing the road operations needs for additional snow and ice removal during difficult weather events associated with prolonged snow or ice storm events. So I'd say, I'm going to say somewhere around 5-6 years ago, maybe 7, we moved from in-house clearing of sidewalks to a contracted service. And I distinctly recall sitting in that chair and commenting and not agreeing, because I think it was a 5 or 10 year contract, and it was an additional $2 million to the budget in order to contract out and have this done. And I asked the questions, we have equipment, what are we doing with them? I wasn't successful, and as you all know, we contract out for sidewalk clearing. And this is, to me, going contrary to even the what we're currently doing, and identifying a single area. I'm not sure how many kilometers, but a single area in 2C. And I guess my question is, why aren't we, what is the cost benefit to now going in-house for a specific area, and not engaging the current contractors to do as they do for the entire town, and clean the sidewalks in that area of 2C? Why do we need to purchase a new equipment for only that area when we have a contract? I guess, I'm not sure, through you, Mr. Downey or Mr. CAO.
Mr. Downey, is there a reason why we need to purchase new equipment? Can we not just ask the contractor to expand their scope?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are presently, it's already in a draft, our second winter report that is dealing with road maintenance as well as sidewalk maintenance, and whether or not we should be looking at in-house, or whether we should be looking at contract or a blended mixture of both. I have no objection of tying this piece of equipment into that report, and that will give you a better understanding of how this work is performed at this particular time. Even though we went to a contract service for sidewalks, we still have sidewalk snowplows in our inventory. And the reason for that is that recently we had them out because of the wind. So what happens is the sidewalks are cleared, and then we have pockets of town where wind is blowing the snow back in. So instead of calling the contractor out again at additional cost, we deploy our own staff with our own equipment in order to clear off those areas. So we deal with some hot spots with regards to that. As I said, we will be addressing our equipment or how we propose to deal with sidewalks in this report, and I have no problem tying this acquisition into that report.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. Could we, with that report, get back that report from, I'm not sure if it was 5 or 6 years ago, that was before council, when council originally made that decision to go with the contracted services? That would be helpful. If not, I could find it.
Mr. Downey, can we attach that old original report?
So one of the sections with regards to our reports are previous reports. So yep. I had identified previous reports, if you recall, with regards to Windrow in our first winter report. I see no problem with trying to find that specific report.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Appreciate that. Councillor Gallo? Good. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know where this is going. I think the contract expires 2021. I think in 2 more years. So I guess staff is trying to take a look at potentially preparing to renew for that contract, or taking it back in-house and look at the value and review. About 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we had some really big problems with sidewalk contract. Really big. It's been changed around overnight. I haven't received one complaint of sod being torn up, which was just running rampant 2 years ago or so. And then Mr. Downey took over that operation and just magically disappeared. So I don't know what happened. Obviously, I could talk with the contractor, change that. But I think what we have to do with this one, take a look. I mean, it's $175,000, but we should take a look at, what is the strategy moving forward? Like, are we going to change that? I mean, I understand you still need it, but I'd like to understand just what Councillor Gallo had mentioned, that let's take a look at the strategy moving forward, the value of outsourcing versus keeping it in-house, and the value, because I understand the standards are a lot better now, for sure, but just that additional information will help me as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have 722 Wildlife Park Phase 1, 2, and 3. Councillor Gardner. Do you want to put something forward, or did you just want to start speaking?
I would like it to be green.
Okay, second. Councillor Humphreys, go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
Just want to ask, I'm not sure who is at the table that could answer that. Maybe Mr. Downey? Sorry, I did try and get a hold of Mr. Tree and Sarah Teenkamp, but the trail system through the wildlife park, is that going to be according to the Trails Master Plan and the plan that has been, the trail plan that has been established for the park?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's actually been quite a work in progress. So it incorporates not only Mr. Tomlinson's vision of what was happening there, but also the Trails Master Plan. And that is the one area of the wildlife park that we have full approval for. So we would like to move forward with those trails. We are still awaiting approvals with regards to the wetlands. We're almost there with regards to approvals of the wetlands, but we haven't received those, and that would be phase 2 and 3 of the project.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. The reason I'm asking is because I think it was some misinformation in the last council about the wildlife park. It's not a park that people play in. So with respect to the trails, where it crosses the wetlands, those trails need to be bermed so that the animals are not disturbed. So, Mr. Downey, I'm assuming that's in the Trails Master Plan as well?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that has to do with, yes, it's in the Trails Master Plan, but it has more to do with the implementation and the how we govern the trails. If you recall early on, there are areas within this park or area, whatever you want to call it, that we will not permit people in during a certain period of time, because we have nesting birds happening. So we do our very best to try to separate the two, so that there isn't any interference. We will be monitoring that closely. We will be signing it heavily to certainly educate people on the sensitivity of some of the trails within the park area. So that has everything to do with future phases and moving forward with the implementation once we have the trails in place.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. So it has nothing to do with this financial spend?
Mr. Downey?
This financial spend, we have now estimated that it's going to be around $3 million. So once we have the tender out, and we're very close to having that tender out, we'll have a better idea what we can get done within phase 1 and whether or not there is any money available to be carried over to future phases, or whether or not we're going to need some additional funding in future phases in order to fund the first phase. So right now it's a cost estimate, and we'll know much better once we go to tender.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I think at the end of the day, I'm looking for assurance that the planning for the trail system and the berming and also the viewpoints, they have to be, I'm not sure what it's called, blackout? They have to be so that the residents, or the visitors can view the wildlife, but the wildlife can't see the people. So I just want an assurance that that is all going to be carried out. Because there's no point in having a wildlife park if we don't do that.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's all part of the design, the full design of the park. So whether it happens in the phase 1 or whether it happens in future phases, because it may occur as part of the wetland development, for instance. Yes, it is part of the park. I can't say for sure it's going to happen in phase 1. The trail may go in, and then the screening may happen as part of a phase 2 or a phase 3 when we go forward with wetland development.
Thank you. And I think one of the committees has seen the design, but I don't think that it's come to council. So could that happen?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, absolutely. It has, council asked us to take it to the committees, and we did. It's, as I say, it's about 90% complete at this point, so we have no objection presenting it to council.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, just so I understand, if it is approved and given the green light, you'll then issue a tender for phase construction. That work will commence, even though on the report it says Q2 2018, but I assume you mean Q2 2019. But it will come back to us to award the tenders. We will see it again?
Mr. Downey.
Through you, if the tenders come in within budget, you will not see it again. That's part of our new procurement process. So only if there is an issue with regards to the budget will council have an opportunity to have some discussion.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. And my second question through you, actually to Mr. Gardner. Jason, it says that the primary funds are coming out of the Parks Development and DC Contribution Fund. If I look on 6.1, is that the fund that's currently overdrawn to the tune of $11.6 million?
That's correct.
And so we're confident that the DCs will come in to fund this and many of the other projects that we have allocated for that fund?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
You're okay? Yep. Councillor Gallant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as I've always been in full support of this project, I would still want this to be a yellow and come back before. I don't feel comfortable potentially not seeing it again. And that's what we would be doing by approving a green. I would like to see a full report come to council and to the public, quite frankly, so they can see exactly what we're doing. So I will not be supporting this, and I would urge everyone to not support it and ask for a report back to council.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to call the vote. Oh, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I moved the green, but I think Councillor Gallo is right, so I won't be voting for the green. That's what's on the table.
Did you want to change it?
Who was the seconder?
Councillor Humphreys.
You'll second it to
Did you
yellow?
want to change it, Councillor Gardner?
Well, I mean, I think we do need to see this tender. It may slow the process down by a couple of weeks, but at this point, it's been about 10 years since this has been in the process. So yes, I'd like to move it to yellow.
Okay. Councillor Humphreys, you okay with that? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have the 726, the Cattle Crawl Underpass. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, just pulling it up. In the report, it says that the staff continue to investigate cost sharing with Metrolinx regarding the Cattle Crawl underpass, and I'm just wondering if there's anything further that anyone could add to that. If not, once again, you know, if there's an opportunity for funding, my same comments as I've said before with capital budgets, that I just hesitate approving them until we're a little more secure, or at least sure that some money's coming from somewhere else. I just want to see a justification of the project and spending the money.
And Councillor Gallo,
it's a bit of catch-22. I get it, but
yeah, no, for sure. And before I let anyone answer, I'll just remind we discussed this quite a bit at an extensive discussion at the Trails Committee last term. Councillor Humphreys was there, so was I, and I can tell you for a fact that Metrolinx, with the previous government, the purse strings were pretty tight, but with this government, I can guarantee you the purse strings are tighter than a snare drum. So I don't think any money is going to be coming, but even though staff have been working very hard to try to convince them, but if any staff member wants to chime in there. Mr. Downey, were you having discussions with them or some of the staff?
Through you, they have not come back with a formal response. They've given us an indication that they're willing to enter into it, but until we actually see for sure it's a yes, and that's the same information that was provided to the Trails Committee.
Yep. Thank you. So, I mean, if you want to put a yellow, Councillor Gallo, yeah, and wait to hear back, that'd be fine.
yeah, I just And again, I wasn't privy to previous discussions. I'm only going by what's in front of me. And, you know, I know what it is, but, you know, $750,000, you know, is there a needs analysis? Is there a business plan for it? What's the benefit to the community? You know, there's some information in here, but
I'll
just
get Klaus to come in here and tell you what the benefit is, all right?
I'm sure he would go on and on and on.
That's fine. So yellow?
Sure.
Okay. Second? Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Humphreys, you want to speak?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to add what you said. So, yeah, I really like to see this happen. I really do, but we'll see what else I can come. We won't get any funding, but we'll try a little bit.
Councillor Gardner?
Through you to Mr. Downey, do we just have to sit and wait indefinitely for Metrolinx? Do you have any idea when the last communication was?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, I'm not aware when the last communication was, but it is a little bit of a wait and see. The direction from the Trails Committee and then ultimately from Council was that we put $750,000 in as a placeholder. So it would certainly go a long way in our discussions with Metrolinx to say that Council is committed to $750,000 towards making this happen. But I can't force them to give us an answer at this particular time.
Councillor Gardner?
I was kind of thinking the opposite. I was thinking that if we said something like that, then Metrolinx would say, well, they're taking care of it, so we don't need to. Anyway, is it possible to communicate with them and just remind them that we're waiting?
Mr. Downey?
So sometimes the discussions are difficult. If we met with Metrolinx and said that the town's interested in a 50-50 relationship, should I say yes?
Sorry, if they say they're interested?
If they say they're interested in a 50-50 relationship, we have no funds allocated. So I'm not in a position to say the town is interested in doing that. As they say, it's only a placeholder. But if they knew that we were committed to making this happen, but as they say, I'm at Council's pleasure with regards to it. There was quite an extensive conversation with regards to this at the Trails Committee. So that's why the recommendations were coming forward. It was then sent to Council. Council approved that. So we are following Council direction with regards to putting this as a placeholder within the capital budget.
Councillor Gardner?
Is $750,000 the total cost for this?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, one of the challenges is an engineering study because we don't know what it is. And that's the way we explained it to the Trails Committee. We don't know what we don't know here because we haven't got a study done. So Council could theoretically fund entirely an engineering study to determine what the actual costs are. However, since Metrolinx is doing some work on the railway, we thought it would be appropriate to look for half from Metrolinx. But we could move forward with an engineering study to determine whether or not it could be done and how much that would be, and then come back to Metrolinx and ask for funding for the construction, or shared funding for the construction.
And the parks, the fund that this would fall under, if we do this, is in a negative balance.
That's my understanding.
So, I mean, we wouldn't be rushing out to do this anyway. I hope we wouldn't be.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that certainly was the understanding of the Trails Committee, that this was something that they would like to see council support, which they did, on moving this forward. If we got this green light, we would then be moving forward with Metrolinx, saying, we've got a placeholder, we've got some funding. We'd like to get moving on the engineering study to determine whether or not this can actually happen or not, because that seems to be the big question at this point.
Councillor Gardner?
Okay, so would we be using this funding in this budget year?
Mr. Downey.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we would, I'd say yes.
Okay.
It would either be full funding by the municipality or shared funding between us and Metrolinx, but we come back to council with regards to that.
Thank you. I know we want this, but to spend this money when the reserve is in such a negative balance, I'm not going to be able to vote for it.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. And I guess just for my clarity, while I recognize that this was approved by or recommended by the Trails Committee, it was never technically approved by council. We never got a report. We approved the minutes, which said put this into the 2019 budget conversation discussions, but there was never a report presented to council with regards to this trail. If I read the minutes and I read the recommendations, it was simply that really the discussion be moved forward to the 2019 budget. No different than the Sark Gymnasium, no different than Yonge Street Parking Plan and other items like that. And so, I'll support Yellow at this time, but I want to see this report. I want to understand the benefits to this crossing or underpass, because I wasn't privy to what happened at the Trails meeting and the conversation that went through it. And before I greenlight, $750,000, I do, as Councillor Gallo stated earlier, want to understand the benefit and how many people are going to be using this, because it's an awful lot of money. And so I need that information. I need that report, because to me, yes, council said, fine, let's have the conversation at the budget meeting, but there's not any information within this sheet to really help me to understand the benefit itself. And so for the moment, I'll support Yellow, but by no means am I approving this project.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So from a trails and transportation perspective, this was quite there's a passionate discussion around the table that this is going to be a lost opportunity because the tracks are being renovated, and it's an opportunity for us to hit them up and see if they can split the cost. And it's going to be pretty incredible. It's actual cow trail. It's where the cows went through and underneath the underpass, and so it's there. It's just not usable. It's been half covered with boulders and stuff, so it needs renovations, and it's not appropriate right now the way it is. So there was a lot of work done by our residents, including Klaus. He went to every Metrolinx meeting at the schools, and I think staff did a lot of work there. And I don't know if there's anyone at the table here that would know. I think they went and have been trying to work with Metrolinx, but as Mr. Downing says, we can't get near them unless there's the will of council to put our side of it. If we think it's the right thing to do, yes. From a budgeting perspective, it's kind of challenging, obviously. But if it's something that we believe in, then we have to show them that we're serious as well in order to get to the table with Metrolinx and have that discussion. If we come back with additional information, I think Yellow is fine for now. Pull out all the reports and all the work that was done, because there was a lot done. I think the last communication was summer last year with Metrolinx, and they haven't answered. So we need to get back at the table and say we're serious if we want to go there, and see if we can get some attention. Maybe go different angles to get a meeting with Metrolinx. But I don't want to see this project sort of forgotten or not worth it, because it is pretty cool. The history of it is really cool. It's the southwest part of town, and there's no connectivity that way. And if you don't have that, our trails won't flow the way that we have on through our master trails plan. So I'd like to see more information for the benefit of council, especially mentioned by Councillor Thompson that we don't have the whole picture here, but if we can have it, and it's something we're interested in, understanding we have a challenge from a financial perspective, figure out how that is going to work. I don't want to see it gone. I'd like to see this exist and try all different avenues until we know for sure, either forget about it or let's move forward. But we do have to give staff something for them to kind of get that audience with Metrolinx, and it's only going to get there if we're serious about it. So I'm good with Yellow, and let's hope that we can get the additional information required for us to get to that next step.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gallo, before I go back to you, I just wanted to say, I fully agree with the yellow at this point because I think that it's important that everyone sitting around this table sees all the full information. I know Councillor Humphreys and myself saw a lot of the information in dealing with this at the Trails Committee, but I think it's imperative that everyone sitting at this table see that full information to be able to make a proper decision on this. As much as the Trails Committee recommended this, we're the final decision makers and we need to make a decision on this. So I think it's important that we get that information for everyone. So Councillor Gallo, did you?
Just really quick. I read in the report that Metrolink verbally indicated we are to enter into a 50-50 cost sharing for an engineering study. I guess that's just they're interested in sharing the engineering study, not necessarily the capital cost to actually do the work. And secondly, Councillor Humphrey said something interesting, and I don't know if it's linked to any expansion of the either when if they're double tracking or if Metrolix is doing work and we should be doing it as a result of that work. That's a different picture, and maybe there's a time frame involved, and we can piggyback and so I think if that's the case, then yeah, absolutely. Let's take a much more serious look at that. If work is being done and we can piggyback like we've done with other underpasses, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm in support of a report back, and just to note that I find a lot of value in this discussion because someone says something, someone else triggers something else, and maybe even the public sees it and finds value to it. So I'm all for. While it takes a lot of time, I'm all for having these discussions at this table. I find it very helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. All right. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. $729, walkway, Sark to Salvation Army property. Councillor Gardner. Did you want to move something on this? Or did you just want to speak to it?
I just wanted to speak to it.
Okay.
So the Salvation Army says that they'd be very, well, they don't say they'd be very pleased, but they would also like to see the connectivity between the Sark and the Salvation Army property. But I'd like to know, who is it for the benefit? That may not be proper English, but who does it benefit? Does it benefit the Salvation Army? Does it benefit, are residents going to be cutting through the Salvation Army to get to the Sark?
Does anyone want to take a stab at that?
Mr. Downey.
Mr. Downey, you're
I'll
very
try.
talkative this evening, so why not?
Pardon? Well, it's only because all three of us were there when we were discussing this, so because it involves all three departments. The walkway is completely on Salvation Army property. It would assist if we had an overflow event, such as the trade show going on at the Sark. We could use the Salvation Army parking lot as an overflow parking lot, and people would be able to walk back and forth from the Salvation Army site onto the Sark. Conversely, they also have some facilities at the Salvation Army that we may be looking at. Robin can speak to it better, but with regards to some shared use, some gymnasium space, and those types of things that we may find that we want from a programming perspective. And conversely, there are elements within the Sark that they may find as a benefit for shared use, or pool or ice rink or whatever at the Sark. So there is some shared use or some shared benefit from both the Salvation Army as well as ourselves with the placement of this sidewalk.
Councillor Gardner?
So I would like to see that in writing. I would like to know about the shared benefit and the use of their parking lot before I went forward with this.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. This one does concern me. I have heard, I don't know, we'll call it rumors or whatever, that, the Salvation Army needs more space, that they've already, looking at options, that people are parking on Leslie Street, and they've already approached some of us and say, can we have access to the Sark because we need it? They're also talking about expanding their current facilities, and so they have even more of a parking crunch. And I'd be concerned that they would be using more of the Sark's parking lot than we would be using of theirs and their facilities. At the same time, we're having conversations about expanding the site and paying to acquire property to, potentially increase the footprint for the Sark. I mean, there's all kinds of conversations going on, and I'm concerned that the benefit may be more to their liking than ours. And so I'm not in favor of it at this time, not until we know what we're doing with that property down the road.
Did you want to move something?
No, I'll listen to my other colleagues first, but that's
Okay.
my feelings on the matter.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. I recall, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, just prior to Mr. Bruno leaving, I asked him about this very item, about not just who will benefit more, but what type of remediation process do we have in place so that that such a situation as Councillor Thompson iterated just now doesn't happen. Once you open it up, you can't really close it again. I prefer that town land stay for specific town uses, because quite often municipal or government properties can be, the relationship is skewed the other way. So I would feel more comfortable with what we know now, which is essentially the upper limits of our parking volume or capacity. So I would also not be in favor of continuing on with this.
Did you want to put something forward, Councillor Kim?
I'm happy to put in the red.
Red? Second? Councillor Gallo? Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gardner, second time.
Make one. I have been over there, and it's a very, very popular church, and I think it's growing a lot faster than they thought, and that's wonderful, but it comes with problems. But I think we need to be cautious, so I'm glad for this.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right, next we have 731, street light pole identification. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one.
It's a lot of money. I just would like somebody to talk about this some more.
So did you want to put a yellow?
I would like a yellow.
Second? Councillor Gallo? Did you want to speak to it a little bit more, Councillor Gardner, or just?
No, I just need some more information. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Kim?
Thank you. I think this is a practical project that needs to be implemented. My only question is, and there's another one about light illumination on another item later, but between 2015 and 2017, we underwent a project where we did a wholesale change of LED lighting, or to LED lighting, over those 3 years. And I guess my question is, it would have been efficient and perhaps more cost effective if this was done at that time. So my question is why this wasn't considered when the LED lighting was being done at the same time, because we did the whole town. So through you to whoever could respond, Mr. Downey or Mr. CAO. Or
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This was not part of the scope of the project for LED lighting. This involves attaching an ID number for each street light pole. And we do have each pole, it's ID'd in our documents in GIS, but it's not physically numbered. The poles are not physically numbered and ID'd on the street. So it will help a lot when complaints are being made that a light is out. If we have the ID on the pole, it will be very easy for the resident or even town staff to identify the pole. And it was not part of the LED project. The LED project that just changed the luminaire, HPS luminaire, into an LED luminaires. We did not put this part of the LED project.
Councillor Kim?
yes, thank you, Mrs. Mahale. I realized that wasn't part of the scope of that project, and Unless, but I guess my question is why we didn't have the foresight to put it in at that time. Unless LAS and its partner did not have the technical skill sets to put a sticker on, or I'm not trying to be facetious there, or engrave something there. If it's just a matter of numbering, because they're going to be there anyway, I just thought it would have been an ideal kind of partnership that could be done all at once. But if it's beyond the abilities of one company to do all that, then I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Before I go to Councillor Thompson, Ankit, can you just explain what is involved with actually putting the number on? Like, what is it? Is it a sticker? Is it do they inscribe it onto the metal piece?
I think it would be a metal piece. I didn't look at what it's operations division who investigate. I know that other municipalities are doing this, and York Region is doing this. There is a probably a metal piece. I can find out what's being done currently by the region, and it's put on the pole, and the ID is there, and also identifying the ownership, Town of Aurora, instead of York Region.
So, and just to follow up, $40,000, we have over 4,000 street lights, so basically we're looking at $10 per light, and that's with installation as well.
Something like that.
Okay.
I understand, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Ms. Mahill kind of answered part of my question. I just want to know if this was standard practice, and if I went to the City of Toronto or Vaughan or somewhere else, I could see this on other lights, and that's great. Thank you.
Councillor Gallo?
Most of my questions were answered. I just, if they are labeled, I'll be identifying two of them that at least one should be removed. They're about 3 meters from each other around the Home Depot. It just makes no sense that we have two full light posts within 15 feet of each other.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Having heard the explanation, I'm fine with this. I would move it to a green.
You'll move it to a green? Okay, thank you. Who seconded that? Councillor Gallo? Councillor Gallo, you okay with moving this to green? Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So next we have 732, Aurora Promenade Streetscape Design and Implementation. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one.
We've been here before. I don't know. Again, this is a lot of money. I need to have more information on this.
Okay.
I want a costing on this, please.
Okay.
So it would be a yellow.
Okay, second. Councillor Gallo. Councillor Thompson.
Same sentiments as Councillor Gardner. We have been here before. I had certain issues with some of the projects identified within the total scope of the work, some colored brick, things like that. I really do want to know what the $730,000 is allocated for, and I need those details before I move forward, because I voted against it the last time.
Sidewalks? No, just joking.
Yeah, it was a bunch of things, but I would want the details before I could move forward with this for sure. I just, I just can't spend $730,000 without knowing what exactly we're doing as part of that overall streetscape plan, because it's well into the millions of dollars.
No, definitely. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. It's quorum. Next we have the Yonge Street Parking Plan, which I'm sure might get a lot of discussion. I know, that thing's got more lives than the cat, but Councillor Gallo, you pulled this one.
Yeah, I don't even know why. I think just not enough information for me to approve it.
Can I save you some time? I think someone's going to put forward a red, so.
Okay, all right.
Councillor Thompson?
Like I did 1 year ago.
Second, Councillor Kim.
Council as a whole, in my opinion, voted against it a year ago, and voted it down primarily because of there were details missing out of it that council was looking to get, as well as the financial aspect of the program. Council didn't want to move forward at that time. In fact, we amended the motion to say, please don't bring it back. Anyways, I put forward red again. And hopefully.
Thank you for deja vu,
And
Councillor
if I can
Thompson.
expand, I'd like it not approved for 2019 and going forward.
Councillor Gallo.
Just as a side note, I like the concept. I just don't think it works. I mean, and Montreal does it everywhere and it works really well. It's just Yonge Street doesn't, you know, it's a major thoroughfare and it just doesn't seem to work on I wouldn't imagine it works on Yonge Street. It's a great idea though.
No, and just to reiterate, the discussions we had, I think for the most part, was that a lot of us felt the concept is a good concept, but whether it's the costs that the municipality is paying out on this, the location of it, so there were a lot of like basically negatives compared to the pros on it. So, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So next we have traffic calming measures in school zones, 735. Councillor Gartner, just in time, you came back. You pulled this.
Thank you. I have a motion floating about using red light cameras to help with traffic calming, and I'm just wondering if anybody knows whether the province passed that.
Was it not red light? It was speed, for speed, right? Yes. Speed radar, photo radar. Well, the old, they're not called photo radar anymore, but
Yeah.
correct?
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
So I'm just wondering if where we are with that and if it could be part of the project. And also the other one is Aurora Heights Public School. I'm wondering why that isn't included here. Because we've had at least one delegation on that, probably a lot more.
Mr. Seo?
Through Mr. Mayor, I can't answer the second part of the question, but the first part, I believe the City of Toronto was doing some pilot testing in anticipation of the province allowing them, but the province still has not officially allowed the speed.
Councillor
Thank you,
Garner?
and perhaps it died with the last term. Could somebody find out, though? Thank you.
Mr. Seo will look into that, and I would suggest also, Councillor Gardner, that we can also look at expanding the scope of schools that we could look at doing this.
Or how we came up
Or
with
how we can do it,
justification.
yes.
Thank you very much.
We
So
can
we
look
can
at
do a
it.
yellow?
We'll do a yellow.
Thank you.
Second? Councillor Gallo? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 737, John Westway traffic light update. Councillor Gallo? Yeah, and staff have recommended a red, so you want to put a red right away? Okay. Second? Councillor Thompson? Any comments or questions to it? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 738, lighting upgrade Wellington, Bursey to Bursey, west of John Westway. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one.
I'm fine with it. Thank you. I just want to say that this is a very dark area, and I'm not really sure how it happened. And there is a school zone there, so I'm very, very glad to see this.
Yeah, and this has been a long time coming, I think. And
Yeah.
as it states, I think the approvals just came in for this area, so. So you want to put a green?
Yes, please.
Anka, did you want to add something to that?
Just that it took a long time to obtain approvals
Yeah.
from the electrical authority. That was the reason but now we have all the approvals, so we can move with the project.
Was there a rationale as to why?
They went through a revision of how they are going to approve this type of project, and this delayed the application's turnaround time.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo?
Forgive my ignorance. Is this part of Wellington not a regional road? And would they not be responsible for any of
For
this?
you, Mr. Mayor.
Anchor will answer that for you.
Yes, Wellington is a regional road. However, the municipality is responsible for sidewalk, bikeways, and lighting. So we pay, build them, and maintain them.
Can we bill them that 6% administration fee?
Correct.
Thank you. All right. Councilor Gallo? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right. We are at 7:40. Hillary House parking lot. Councilor Gartner. I see Mr. Green has left.
Oh.
Oh, he has a board meeting. Okay.
It's a lot of money, and it was a hard decision for me, but I think that we should approve this. Hillary House has been struggling. They've done better recently. I'd like to give them the opportunity to expand. I'm sorry Mr. Green isn't here, because I'm wondering if this really does make Hillary House more popular and brings in a lot of money, whether we could do a contract with them to recoup some of this money. And I think that it wouldn't be a foreign topic to them. I think they might have thought about this, so I would like to further investigate it, but I think it needs to be done.
Thank you, Councilor Gartner. See, this is a very hot topic. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you. I wouldn't be supportive of green at this time. I'd be fine with a yellow. A couple things. I'd like a staff report. I'd like to understand what the impact is of allocating that parking lot to them primarily. But also, my biggest concern really is, to me, it's a dual process. Parking lot's one piece, but that path has to be done as well. And I wouldn't want to move forward with the development of the parking lot until that we know that the funding and or construction of that path is taking place at the same time. I don't want people parking and then walking up, a dirt path, a grass path, however it is, into Hillary House. So I'd want to know that that piece is in place and going to move forward before green lighting the parking lot. So I'm fine with the conditional approval, but I'd like to get staff's perspective of that lot being flipped over to them, as well as some sort of assurances that they will happen in conjunction with each other. They will not happen independently.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Councilor Humphreys.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Exactly, 100%. If we can, put this forward with, conditional information, and then say, yep, hopefully we'll be okay with it, but we have to have the pathway done as well. It makes total sense, and they should want that more than, it's the right thing to do. Thanks.
Councilor Kim.
Thank you. I'm in agreement with all that's been said around the table. But assuming that both the pathway and the parking is done simultaneously, I think the need for parking spaces is not debatable, because I've always been of the mind that you really don't know, how popular or how usable a service, or in this case a cultural partner, can be until you maximize the accessibility, the marketability, and advertising and all that. And I think that they've been shortchanged by not having proper accessibility to the venue. So, in theory and in concept, the parking lot is much needed. So I'd be okay with that, and in conjunction with the simultaneous approval of the pathway.
Thank you, Councilor Kim. Councilor Gallo.
Thank you, and I'm happy to see it come back as well. I'm just curious to see if January 14th was the first time we've known this, or maybe if someone has a little history about if it went to any of the committees, or because if it didn't, and the first time we heard about this was at a podium, I'm going to advise some other community groups to, and it ends up on a budget sheet, I'm going to advise some other community groups to do something similar.
So, Councilor Gallo, I'll let our CEO kind of expand on it, but we did get it previously, and I did believe we had an initial drawing as well, but I forget the date, so I'll let our CEO expand on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this group did approach council, I believe, 2 years ago, maybe 3. At the time, they were seeking a grant from the federal government, and they asked for the town to notionally approve the allocation of the area to a parking lot, because they were trying to get grant money to do the whole project. So that's when it first came to council, and council agreed to allow the conversion of the area for a parking lot for them. But it was, as Councillor Thompson pointed out, it was part of a bigger plan that included a walkway and the reassembly of the coach house that they have in pieces on the property. So then we hadn't heard anything until they came forward this year and asked for the town to fund the parking lot, as seeing as they were unsuccessful in getting funding.
Okay, thanks. I'm fine with yellow.
Thank you. No, I didn't have someone actually move this. Yes, so can I get someone to move yellow? Councillor Kim, second by Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And that's the end of tab number 7. We will move to tab 8. Studies and other capital projects, everyone's favorite topic. We will start with 8.3, update Town of Aurora strategic plan. I had pulled this, but I had pulled it actually for Councillor Thompson because I knew he wanted to pull it and he wasn't here. So, Councillor Thompson?
My first inclination is to put forward red. We just approved the strategic plan on February of 2018. If you look at the plan itself, it talks about at length about the 2017 update. And so to me, I don't see a lot has changed in the last year or 2 years to warrant this. Granted, it is a new term of council, I understand that. So I would like some understanding, because initially the strategic plan was supposed to be updated in 5-year increments. It was initially in 2012, we had our update in 2017, now here it is 2019. So 3 terms on council, three asks for updating the strategic plan. So through you to our CAO, what do you feel has changed since the adoption of our last strategic plan update to warrant a further update?
Mr. CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is, I was told that this was a standard item put in at the beginning of every term of council to allow a council to look over or devise their own strategic plan for the coming term. Upon reflection of the dates and the history that you've given, we agree there probably isn't much, unless this council felt strongly about rehashing that strategic plan. It's probably not necessary to do an update of the strategic plan. I believe in discussions with the mayor, there is some thought to doing a council priority session, and I've suggested that we would simply refresh, beginning of that session, we would do a refresher on the strategic plan to make sure that we at least done a walkthrough of it, but we certainly don't need to do a full review.
And I would be comfortable with doing that priority session and doing a refresher in-house so that there's no cost associated with it to reflect perhaps the changing priorities of this council versus previous ones. But I would not be in support of taking on a consultant and doing a full revisit of the strategic plan for $80,000 after such a short period of time. So I'm not in support of this as laid out before me.
Red? Second? Yes. Councillor Gardner. Any comments? Other comments? Seeing none. All those in favor of red, not approved? Opposed? That carries. 8.4, resident survey. Councillor Gardner, you pulled that one.
Thank you, and I'm glad to see Ms. Mackenzie Smith here tonight. I mean, I thought when we did the communications plan, through you, Mr. Mayor, I thought when we did the communications plan, we got a lot of feedback to enable us to do an appropriate communications plan. So I think I'm pretty okay with not doing it, but I want to hear from Ms. Mackenzie Smith. Perhaps she wants to compare the before and the after.
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this would be more expansive than the Communications and Community Engagement survey. So the goal would be to do a much more comprehensive survey as opposed to just a few questions related to communications, but also to really it would be based on phone interviews, it would be based on mail outs, as well as an online survey. And so the purpose of it really would be to identify norms, to do comparisons with other municipalities, to set some longer-term benchmarks to be able to compare certain things year over year. And it would be something that, you know, we would generally recommend be done, say, every 4 years, so that you're building a comparative base, so you have something to look at over time. And it wouldn't be just about, you know, preferred methods of communication and community engagement, but identifying certain barriers to community engagement, but as well as to provide some more long-term guidance in terms of branding, so things like, you know, assessing perceptions of the municipality, you know, a breakdown of demographics and responses by certain neighborhoods to identify different opportunities for engagement moving forward. But also not just in evaluating communications and community engagement. It's something that could be done really more at a strategic level across the organization. So we would be looking at it at an executive leadership team level, where communications would be, you know, kind of leading the process, but it would really be built at assessing satisfaction rates in general with municipal services. So there's an opportunity for us to really expand beyond that communications and community engagement. You know, although we would be looking at it through that lens, but really we could work with a lot of other departments to assess levels of satisfaction, perceptions of value for taxpayer dollar, things like that. Because all of that information is useful for the individual departments, but it also really helps communications guide our communications efforts and understand where we need to be focusing our energy. So say, for example, if there was a particular neighborhood that we identified as, you know, those particular people didn't had a strong preference for not engaging online with regard to a public consultation, then we could say, okay, maybe in that particular neighborhood, we would do planning could do if there was a planning issue, could go into that neighborhood and do a town hall or public consultation in that neighborhood to be able to generate more engagement on that issue. So we're looking at it more as something a bit broader than what we did for the communications and community engagement strategy.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. I have two questions for Ms. Mackenzie Smith. At the end of the capital project sheet, you talk about if not approved, the town will still develop a less comprehensive survey in-house, and there'll be significant costs associated with it. Based on that 30,000 figure, if you do it in-house, are we talking a third, a half, a quarter, roughly? We won't hold you to it, but.
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, keeping in mind that you would be utilizing my, by going outside, we would be using a consultant who is a specialist in, you know, in that research, and obviously, you know, we'd be putting to use my, the research methods skills of my my master's graduates in my department to develop the survey in-house. So we would be limited probably in terms of doing telephone interviews, because we wouldn't be able to have the resources to do that necessarily. So it would be a combination of a mail-out survey as well as an online survey. So my estimate in terms of based on a 10% response rate, sorry, I'm doing the math in my head, which, by the way, is not my strong suit, so I apologize. An average response rate probably for a mail-in survey would be 10%. I would consider it to actually be a significantly high response rate for a mail-in survey. We would want, my ideal would be approximately, for a statistically significant sample, would be 380. So doing the math with the postage and printing, it would still be significant, but it would be significantly less, obviously, than the 30,000.
I'll let you work on it on the
Yeah, sorry, I can
no worries.
do the math in my, I'm not going to do the math in my head. I'm trying to think of what the printing cost would be.
But you do raise a good question with regards to what's statistically relevant. And so in the project description, you talk about, you know, wanting to engage enough people to have a statistically relevant number of residents. What is that number if we go through with the consultant? What would you view as a response that is statistically relevant?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Municipality our size, a statistically significant response would generally be around 380 responses. My preference would be about 500 responses would actually be preferable for me.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Let's see if we hit that number.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, just based on the project description, and it talks about just via mail and online. You know, my question was broadly in line with what Councillor Thompson was asking about. You know, what is statistically relevant? And I think you did answer part of that question, which is the consultant's going to also be phoning residents. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Miss Stephanie, all of a sudden my mind blank. Mackenzie Smith, sorry. It's these hyphenated names, I got to think harder. So with the spam laws and so forth, is the municipality allowed to just call without the approval of residents?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So that's why we would utilize the services of a consultant. So obviously they can't use people that are on the do not call registry, but they do have, so Ipsos, as an example, has a base of people that they would contact for surveys that would be within the region. And obviously they're an extremely professional firm, so they would obviously be complying with all of the legislation. With regards to email, we wouldn't be doing an email survey, and aside from sending out to our already existing email list that we already, subscribe to the Castle legislation. So it would be something that we would have on our website that we would be promoting online and through our social media channels as well, as opposed to randomly emailing people, which would, of course, be against the law.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to collecting more information, because information is the basis of how we, what types of service and how we deliver them. And so it is critical. I guess I'm just kind of wary of what type of, and the quality of information that we're going to get back. And what guarantees the consultant's going to give us that they're going to provide us with the quality information. Frankly, for me, 380 respondents isn't that much. Having, in the Finance Advisory Committee last term, we tried citizen budget a couple of times, and I think we got, I'm not sure how many we got, 10 or 20 or something like that, so it wasn't very significant. And for 30,000, for the risk reward, I'm not confident that getting 300 is sufficient enough, and the information that we get, is it going to be vastly different from what we don't know? And I guess part of paying, $30,000 is just ascertaining whether what we hold true is actually correct. So I am kind of on the fence in terms of whether it's worth spending $30,000 on 380 respondents and not knowing the quality of it, because I suspect that most of it is going to be from call-outs. And if I get a phone call in the night, I'm not sure I'm going to give the most accurate information. I probably will just want to get off the phone. And to make it, I would imagine there's going to be quite a few questions, because if we're going to be hiring a consultant, there's probably going to be 10, 12, 20 questions. And I'm not sure whether a citizen would be willing to stay on the phone for that long a period to give quality information. I'll listen to what others have to say, but I'm just kind of sitting on the fence for those reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just a couple of questions. Have we ever done a resident survey before, like an official survey? And is the intent like how they feel about different things in our community, or specific, just an idea of what would be in the survey?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith, have we done
Just
previous
very
resident
high
surveys?
level, very high level, not detailed, just high level.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, I'm looking to my colleague here because she has that valuable historic memory. So she believes that maybe there was one really quite some time ago.
Okay.
Again, there isn't anything that has been done recently or
Okay.
anything that I would consider of value. I think the idea of a resident survey, so in terms of the numbers.
No, just like, I know the idea behind it. I just want to know, do we know, sorry, not to interrupt you. I think, just a statement, right? I think the voice of our residents is important. If we have $30,000 to spend and we have a really cool consultant that can figure out, are we going in the right direction? Maybe take our strategic plan and then reach out to the residents. Maybe we select residents, like instead of, like I said, just random callers, maybe we select and we notify them that we'd like to, what, no? Oh, okay. Anyway, I'm just talking out loud. Just something where we want people who want to give their time, like not like Councillor Kim said, you know, don't just get me off the phone. But, and then we do have, in June, we do have a great day at the street sale for lots of people in attend, but if residents come, that's an idea. I don't know what we're trying to, like, if I know what we're trying to get at, like, what are we going to do? And similar to what Councillor Kim said, what are we going to get out of it? What are we going to, I know there's some demographics and things like that, but anyway, long story short to say, I'd love to know, I do like this. I like to get more information for sure, to do a survey. I just want to make sure that we get some good stuff back, you know, some good information. So.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I can see Ms. Mackenzie Smith is would really like to do this, and she's done a lot of work to improve our communications department and everything that goes along with it. I also think it's probably best practice to do something like this. I'm willing to give it a chance once and see what happens.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Does anyone want to? Oh, Councillor Kim.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Mackenzie Smith, has this consultant, or have we, first of all, have we identified the consultant? With the experience of other municipalities, have you identified, you know, what types of questions? I mean, I would imagine the questions are by and large similar, and so depending on the size, but I would imagine the questions are similar. Is there a way that we can have a look at the questionnaires of other municipalities' surveys so that we can get an idea of what we can expect?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, certainly. There are two really good examples. Are the city of Coquitlam in British Columbia. So they have about 140,000 residents. I believe they did. I think it was just telephone surveys. It was about 500 responses that they used, and the city of Brampton has an example as well, and they did online surveys through various channels, and there was 1,600 responses that they had. So I'm cautious of doing just an online survey, especially when you're asking any questions related to communications, because you tend to skew your results, based on people who are really comfortable with the internet, which is why my recommendation would be to utilize mail surveys and potentially the phone surveys as well. But there's a variety. We haven't engaged any particular consultant yet. And obviously that would be based on whether or not we were able to get budget for it. So Ipsos did the city of Coquitlam. Obviously Ipsos works with a lot of private sector companies. Most private sector companies do these kind of phone surveys as well as mail surveys as well. And Brampton, I believe, used Environics, which is a company that has also been employed by the region for them to do similar type of work in the past.
Councillor Kim.
Yeah, and just lastly, have you spoken to your peers at the other municipalities, and generally speaking, have they uncovered some nuggets that they did not expect, and which was very positive in their strategy and service provisions in the future?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely, and I think that York Region has worked with Environics actually for quite some time. In my past experience at York Regional Police, they were actually really able to provide us with some really interesting data that they had gathered from their own existing databases, but as well as from survey responses related to, media patterns and usage and communications preferences and things like that. Even related to feelings of safety and security, and identifying some, problem neighborhoods or things like that where people maybe had specific feelings that they felt unsafe, despite the fact that the statistics weren't necessarily representing that. So it was really interesting to be able to kind of see that data. And there's often things that reinforce your existing beliefs, but there's always things that come as a surprise for sure. And I know that other municipalities and other organizations that have done these things do find some surprises.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you. I'd be fine, based on what I've heard from our manager of communications. I'll be fine with going forward if only because I think our residents deserve that we've uncovered every stone and that we've received as much information as possible. And this isn't something that we do every year. It's something probably once every 10 years. I doubt we're going to do this again anytime in the near future. So, 30,000, I think I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Anybody want to move something on this one? Councillor Humphreys, Green, seconded. Councillor Gardner. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Council, we need to take our 10-minute health break. Pardon? Pardon? Yes, but we started an hour earlier, so we've already hit the 2-hour mark. It's part of our procedural bylaw. We're at 10-minute break. All right, council, we're back. Thanks for allowing me a moment to grab a coffee. Appreciate it. So we're at 8.5, backup generation for evacuation center. Councillor Humphreys, you pulled this.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
So, sorry, which one is?
Backup generation for evacuation center, 8.5.
What was my question? Oh, just green.
Green?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, second. Councillor Thompson. Seeing no questions. All those in favor? Favor? Opposed? That carries. 8.6. Councillor Gardner's not back yet. Why don't we move to 8.10? User fee pricing strategy. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. McDougall. Robin, we saw this originally at Parks and Rec last term, then it came to the Financial Advisory Committee. Both times we were looking for some information about, current practices and level of subsidy and how things are done. And I know there's some challenges in collecting all that information, but prior to hiring a consultant and spending $60,000, can we not do some of the groundwork to try and, I guess, minimize the cost? Could we not look at our current programs or the state of what we're doing now before engaging the consultant to look at, the environment and what's out there before making any decisions?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to be clear, the staff on a regular basis do look at our comparators, do look at other municipalities to see where we stand on an annual basis. So that is already information that we do on a regular basis. This dives in deeper into more of the actual cost recovery, the actual considerations for the breakdown of ice within the whole budget of, let's say, the SARC facility, an ice cost versus the pool on the other side versus the main lobby. So it actually would take time to go delve into the estimates of each of those. So it's more of a detailed assessment of the actual cost recovery component, more so than what we currently have to date. So just want to let you know that we do at least look at our comparators, look at where we stand within Aurora and how we situate with fee comparisons to our local municipalities. But we also understand the direction of the committees was to look at that potential cost recovery, and to do that, we'd have to deeper into our financials to do that. And it's from an expertise perspective, I'm looking to my finance colleague, but it's time consuming. It certainly is not something necessarily from a current staff model that we'd have available to be able to pull that data together, certainly not quickly.
And I think that's more the answer I was looking for, whether we could do that initial cost recovery of our current programs or the level to which it's done prior to engaging a consultant and spending, outsourcing it essentially to somebody else. And so I take it from your response, really, it's just we don't have the resources on hand to do that level of deep dive at this point in time.
That's
Ms.
correct.
McDougall?
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to put something forward, Councillor Thompson?
No.
No? Anybody? We're going to do nothing on this one? Nobody wants to do anything on this? You put a yellow? Second? Councillor Thompson? I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Back to 8.6. 22 Church Street, investigation of water infiltration. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I just have a comment again. A comment on this. We're going to be doing a town square, and we're going to be digging down by the foundation of the school, and I don't know why this isn't part of. Why wasn't this part of the work? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Go ahead. Through you,
Ms.
Mr.
McDougall?
Mayor, to Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, if I can assist, this was placed on this budget at this point. Not sure how council would like to proceed with the Library Square project. At this point, if the Library Square project proceeds, this work would be captured within the Library Square work. If the Library Square project does not proceed, this work needs to be done as a preventative measure moving forward. So it's a matter of caution or a comment from me would be suggestion of a yellow light. And then once we know what Library Square's determination is, I could bring back a report to finally to put forward the request to implement this, depending on, again, if council's, what the position is of Library Square.
Councillor Gardner?
Well, I mean, this has to be done, so I'm prepared to give it a green. Whether, no matter what happens with Library Square, I believe we have to do this. Through you, I mean, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall.
Ms. McDougall?
Or is there an urgency to this? I would think so, but.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're mitigating it for now, but as a long-term solution, it has to get done. And what I'm trying to communicate is that this is, if the Library Square project proceeds, this work is captured within that,
Okay, then I think.
budget. If it is not going to proceed, this is a supplementary ask, all on its own, if the Library Square does not proceed.
So I understand what you're saying. Then a yellow is a good idea. Thank you.
So is that a yellow, Councillor
Yes,
Gardner?
please.
Second? Councillor Kim. Councillor Kim, you want to speak?
Thank you. So my question was going to be, what are the timelines to ensure that this problem doesn't get any worse? But I guess what I'm hearing is that by the time we, approve or not approve Library Square, which will probably be in the next couple of months, we're okay with the timelines. And I'm supportive of yellow.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8-7, structural study. Councillor Gardner.
Again, this is a comment. It's maybe a bit of warning. We have very strange soil here, and this is not a good thing that's happening. Although, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall, do you have any other details to add as to why this is happening?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, actually, there's 2 points I wish to make. For clarification, I apologize for the clarity on this. This budget originally was for town hall only. However, through an assessment, we recognize we need to do this work at the Family Leisure Complex as well. So what you're seeing before you is for the 2 assets, the town hall and the AFLC, for $40,000. The language within the capital sheet did not get updated, so I apologize about that. So it's actually the request is for 2 facilities to be done for structural study.
Councillor Gardner?
So this is even more concerning to me. Why? I mean, we've just done this huge renovation on the Family Leisure Complex. We gutted it, and I don't know. I mean, it will have to be done, but I would like to know. I would like to know a lot more than this.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through to Mr. McDougall. We just saw in the previous capital project, we're asking for $10,000 for a structural engineer consultant. Here, we're asking for $40,000 for a structural engineer consultant. Was there any consideration to, rather than hiring consultants, maybe look to bring somebody on staff on a contract, just for a 1-year contract, to just do this and maybe any other structural engineer projects we have out there? From maybe it's more feasible from a cost perspective to bring somebody on rather than hire consultants.
Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, at this point, no, but it's a very, very fair point. That could be reported back if you wish.
Thanks.
Anybody want to move something? Councillor Gardner?
I would move a yellow, but I'd like to have an information report on this. This isn't nearly enough.
Okay. Second, Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8-8, refrigeration plant safety audits. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, Ms. McDougall, why are we doing this now? Like, what has happened that we're doing this now?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it came from a recommendation from our manager of facilities at the time. And unfortunately, in the world of refrigeration and plants and ammonia, there was an unfortunate incident in British Columbia. And it was a recommendation that as a proactive measure to have a look at our systems, as in fact all of our ice pads are ammonia, not Freon. So it's just an opportunity for us to, although we know we are maintaining and we're doing all the proper checks, we're doing the proper maintenance, but we also have the aging assets, and we wanted to just make sure that for the assurance and reassurance of ourselves that the audit helps us to ensure that our facilities are in fact at the premium that we can get them to be. So it was more of a cautionary, observing what's happened in the world of ice plants, and we wanted to have another step at it.
Councilor Gardner?
Well, thank you. And that happened, I don't know how long ago, maybe a year and a half ago. So just wondering why this hit us now if there was a problem detected. Anyway, I think it needs to be green.
Second? Councilor Humphreys? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have 8-9, Outdoor Field Development Strategy. Councilor Gardner?
I think we need to do this, but I don't know. I mean, is this something we could do in-house? There's not a lot of, or is it better to take it out of house and have it be arm's length?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. As we know from our recent assessments, the staff brought for Hallmark Lands.
Sorry, it's my cricket.
As an example, for the recent assessment we did for Hallmark Lands, the staff brought forward our data and information, and yet there was conflicting information in support from their sports user groups. They were debating our numbers, debating our information, and I think a third party definitely creates and supports that validation. And I think there's a significant amount that needs to be assessed, and if we're looking at a long-term plan of our assets, what could be repurposed and what size and configurations we can turn them into, I think it's a long-term strategy we're looking at.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea. I think it needs to be done. I'm willing to give this one a green.
Second? Councilor Humphreys? Councilor Gallo?
I also agree it's a good idea. I think it's probably long past due, but I would like to mention some points in here. And just if you could take yourselves back, those who are on council, during the discussion for Hallmark, and had you have seen what I'm about to read in a report to you, just ask yourselves what you would have done differently. Council identified the need for a comprehensive field management strategy, as there is conflicting information from user groups and extensive research required to properly develop strategy. A comprehensive field development strategy will help ensure that the town is properly positioned to meet the future sports fields needs for the community by maximizing opportunities with existing assets and providing information recommendations for the acquisition of new assets. I'm just wondering if that information was before you, would you have made a different decision for that land?
Thank you, Councilor Gallo. Councilor Thompson?
I do agree with the principle of doing it. Was supportive of it when the idea was brought out at council. I guess the only thing I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around is the price tag of $55,000 for the consultant. Through you to Ms. McDougall, can you just give me a better sense of the work that they're doing to justify that spend?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The strategy would include an evaluation of a mapping of all of our sites, of all of the town municipally owned sites, as well as looking at potential other lands or sites for Bloomington lands, things like that, just to identify where else we could potentially put lands. They would also work and do some consultation with the user groups, and this is all of our outdoor sports user groups. So the ones we know of, and then the ones potentially that are smaller that might use our soccer pitches or our lacrosse, that might like to grow in Aurora. So they would be certainly reaching out and researching with them. Those consultations could be in a group, they could be on an individual basis, depending on the level of detail that they're after. We would also look at the relationship of the lands we have and the ability to repurpose them, the shape, the configuration of those lands. As we also know from the sporting groups, the way and the directional of sun also can affect the assessments of where lands and sports fields should go. That would all be taken into account as well. And also looking at potentially some partnership opportunities within the local school boards, how we could partner with the school boards and what types of investments and improvements we may need to consider to potentially go down that path if we had to. And then finally repurposing the lands we have. So if we have a smaller baseball pitches, but they're underutilized based on some benchmark, it's underutilized, then maybe better utilized if they were reconfigured to a different sport. So there's a significant amount of toying with the numbers, toying with what we have. So it's a time-consuming matter and aspect, as well as consultation in general out to the user groups takes time. So I think that's the evaluation, and it's not uncommon for a study of this size to be in that ballpark. That is a value that we put on it based on what our other experiences are with other studies, and it's a component of a master plan. Master plan would be much more in value. This is a smaller component thereof.
Well, and I guess that's what I'm relating it to, and the cost and work that went into the Parks and Rec master plan. And I think, is there not some degree of duplication, or is that work not already been done in terms of assessing the needs of the various user groups and looking forward in terms of demographic change and so forth, that I just wondered that some of the groundwork may have already been done. I know on multiple occasions since I've been on council in 2010, we've talked about parkland acquisition strategy, and we have a long list of properties identified, whether they're ours or not ours, in terms of future uses. And so I guess a little bit of sticker shock, I guess. I just thought some of that work's already been done. I get the piece about looking at current assets and could they be repurposed for other, means and stuff. So that's why I want to get a sense to have a more comfort level with the price tag. But I definitely agree with the concept that it needs to be done, for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Seeing nothing, Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. McDougall, can you confirm how the $55,000 was derived?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it was just a comparison to other studies that have been done locally, and speaking with our fellow counterparts in other municipalities for similar studies, or at least looking at their overall master plan valuations and pulling back to a component thereof. So if it was an aquatic study or if it was a sports study or an ice study, it was trying to look at that evaluation. So we did do a comparison of our local surrounding areas, and that seemed to be within the ballpark of what is the going figure for this type of a study.
Councillor Kim?
Would the consultants whom we leveraged for the Parks and Rec master plan, would they is it within their purview to do such a study such as this?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, through our procurement process, we have requirements and requests for single or sole source, and certainly the relationship with the former consultant that did our master plan, they would be afforded the opportunity to bid on it. We'd have to review the procurement to see if there's a significant amount, enough of work done by them that would enable us to just go right to that consultant as a single or sole source proponent. If we had that capability, the price might be lower, just because we have done work with them before. They're obviously familiar with our assets, familiar with our opportunities, but that is something we'd have to review with the procurement process to validate that option.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
No, I mean certainly myself as well. The $55,000 seems extreme, given the Parks and Rec plan. Half the information is there in terms of what our future needs are, and the only thing that, in terms of the utilization rates, I'm sure sometimes you know, in the discussion with the Hallmark lands, you know, there was a disagreement on whether it was apples to apples comparisons, but I think if we really sit down and come out with some unit measure, that's something I think that we could be able to identify on our own in-house. And in terms of, you know, the last piece of this, which is essentially, you know, what lands are prime for refurbishment or, you know, reusability for another sport. You know, given our town is only 7 by 7, it doesn't seem like, you know, there's that much land to cover that would warrant such a cost. And so that's where I kind of scratch my head and wondering whether it's good bang for the buck. Okay, well, thank you for putting this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gallo.
I guess considering some of the discussions around the table, is there value to either tender this and have that come back, or scope it at least and have that come back to council with a more accurate price and a more detailed spec on what it is they'll be doing?
Ms. McDougall, can we do that?
Through Mr. Mayor, certainly we can. Just from the timing perspective, it was our hope to have the study completed. So if there were recommendations for any capital change or improvement for subsequent year, we'd have that ready to bring to 2020. So our timing is the only factor that I would caution if we're waiting for a report back. That's just an awareness. But certainly we could bring back the scope of work.
Councillor Gallo, you still have the floor.
Just a comment that this past council made a pretty big decision without this information. If you want to speak about timing, perhaps it should have been done last year or the year before or 5 years ago. You made a very big decision without this information.
So do you want, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Would you prefer that this go out to tender and then come back to us with that before it gets approved, even though we would approve the budget number? Is that what you're looking for?
Be happy with a yellow for this.
For a yellow. Okay. Councillor Gardner.
I appreciate Councillor Gallo's point, but I think these sports groups in general are waiting for us to try and figure it out, and it's been many months now, so I would like to give this a green.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
For myself, if it was approved as a yellow, I would only look for that tender to come back. I don't need a separate report so much before moving to the next stage, but I would just want to see the tender come back and what the actual cost is. I don't necessarily need the terms of reference, but
And that's what I was asking, is that what you would like to see, is that tender to come back? Because I know our policy right now is once we approve it, if it falls underneath that budget number, it can just get approved without coming back here. And so is that, if it was to go to yellow, is that what? That's all I'd be looking for. Councillor Gallo, is that kind of what you're looking for as well?
It is, and I'm fine, but
Okay.
if a tender's coming back, that means there's been a scope and all of that. Right?
Definitely. Okay. So it's green right now. So I'll call on the green. All those in favor? Opposed? That fails. Someone want to put something else forward? Yellow, second. Councillor Gallo. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. I'll just say, Ms. McDougall, that's basically, I think the understanding is it's a go-ahead, but that we would like the tender to come back for council's final approval. Yes.
Sorry, if I may just clarify. Are you looking for the scope of work that's going into the tender to come back, or the results of the tender to come back?
Councillor Thompson? Results of the tender. Is everyone okay with that? Is that the direction that we're looking for, the results of the tender? The scope would be part of the tender that comes back with us, would it not? Yes. we would have that information as part of the report that would be with the tender,
Yes,
correct?
Mr. Mayor, we would include the scope that was included in the tender so you
Yes.
understand what you're getting for your money.
Yes. Is that good, Councillor Gallo? So everyone's under that same understanding? Councillor Kim?
Ms. McDougall, is it possible to go out there with two different scenarios or two different scope documents in terms of we'd like the one scope would be, the full deluxe version, and the other would be we don't need to know what we need for our population in the future, but we just want how we can repurpose existing fields and engaging the utilization rates, or even one of those. Will we have multiple scenarios?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, we can design the tender, the RFP. It's a proposal, not a tender, actually. But we can design the RFP so that they bid on components. So it can be broken out into different components. They could give us a price valuation of those components. Keeping in mind, sometimes you could package it together, you get a bit of a better price. But we could have it so that they bid independently, and then we have the rights to pick components that we wish to proceed with.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we already voted on this. So we'll move to the next one. We have 812, fleet consultant. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I just read something? Might be helpful. I hate to pick on town of Richmond Hill, but I mentioned earlier that I thought they had done a study, and I just quickly looked at it, and they did in 2013. The town completed a core service review of Public Works Operations Division in the Community Services Department. One of the key recommendations of the core service review was that a comprehensive fleet management program be established. Accordingly, KPMG was engaged by the town of Richmond Hill to undertake a fleet utilization study. The overall goal of the study was to identify best practices and the right management approach to fleet utilization in the town. The study project objectives included understanding the current utilization of town fleet of light-duty vehicles, develop standards for right-sizing the town's fleet, and this one is the one that I would refer to the most, develop standards for future vehicle acquisition, and also develop a fleet utilization policy based on leading practices within the fleet industry. And they've based their fleet replacement on this study. They've based their future needs on this study. And I think we're going in that direction. Perhaps that develop standards for future vehicle acquisition is missing in our study. And perhaps we should be including that.
Did you have a recommendation to put on the floor?
Yellow with the intent that we review if in fact we're not looking at any growth related vehicles that in the consultant review that we should.
Second. Councillor Humphreys. Anybody else? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 813, Economic Development Strategic Plan. Councillor Gardner, you pulled that, and there's a recommendation from staff to read, not approve. Okay, so you're going to put the red. Second, Councillor Humphrey seems to always be seconding everything. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 814, Architectural Design Guidelines for Stable Neighborhoods. Councillor Kim, you pulled that one.
Yes. Thank you. I'm in full support of having these design guidelines established for Aurora. And we've been, through Councillor Gardner's motion with the stable neighborhoods, we've identified that, this is something that is strongly needed. My one question I had for this was, through you to who'd be planning, I guess, Ms. Mahale.
I'll attempt to answer, yes.
So with-
Anka, you can, okay.
I'll try.
So for site plan control, I'm not sure about the experience of other municipalities, but is there, just want to make sure that we have sufficient funds. Normally, is there, once the consultant comes back with their site plan criteria and their recommendations, and we implement them, is there a conditional period where the municipality proceeds to see how it's working for the next year or two or three, and then are there adjustments for something such as this, so that we need to put aside funds, 2-3 years down the road for the consultant to come back to have a look back and see if it's working as it was intended? Or is it just, from the experience of other municipalities, it's just a one-time shot where they give you recommendations, we take it, and there's no adjustments going forward?
Ms. McHale?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that is, they provide recommendation and that's it, but I will want to check with Lawrence on this and get back to you on, just to confirm that this is correct.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
Yeah, great, thank you.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two questions. The first, what public engagement process will be involved in this study? Clearly, when we're speaking about architectural design guidelines, I suspect we're going to be including the public in some type of consultation process. And secondly, how are we relating this with any of the discussions we're having currently with the stable neighborhoods and implementing a new bylaw and that whole discussion?
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I assume it will be a public information center, a public consultation to present the recommendations of the consultant. And the second question was what type of
How this ties in with the changes that we're looking to do with the zoning bylaws within.
Yes,
Stable
through you,
neighborhood study.
Mr. Mayor, the type of recommendations will be the overall height. They will look at the overall height of the of 9 meters and how it is measured, and establish a maximum gross floor area for each of the study areas, and create infill development guidelines for study areas. Is this?
So that sounds like a lot of what we're doing during this process of the bylaws. If we're establishing or recommending heights and gross square footage, is this linked in any way with the discussion that we're having at the next public planning meeting, and where we will be receiving some guidelines towards recommendations on GFA or maximum GFA or percentage and height and all of that? I'm a little confused from our last one. Is this related to that?
Councillor Gallo, I from my reading, and Anka, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, this, I think, relates more to the architectural design aspect of it, not necessarily the zoning part of it, right? So we're going to be dealing with the zoning as far as the GFA, the heights, requirements, setbacks, all that stuff at public planning. This is to have someone come in, and this is the way I'm reading it, and like I said, I could be wrong, and a consultant would look at developing those design guidelines, which we were asking for. And basically, the type of structure that it would be, whether it would be Gothic, whether it could be Empire, those type of things, and within those stable neighborhoods.
I understand, and I got that same, but I was just referring to some of the comments that Anka had made in terms of height and GFA if they're going to be looking, that they're going to be also looking at that.
They will be, through you, Mr. Mayor, from what I understand, they will be establishing rules and guidelines and changes to be implemented in the zoning bylaw. So they are going to look and establish these guidelines that will be implemented in these areas.
So this is exactly
Design
no,
guidelines.
the zoning bylaw, height GFA.
Mr. CEO, I don't know if you wanted to weigh in. Yeah, we're going to have to get clarification from, I think, Lawrence, just to make sure.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well,
Councillor Gallo, yeah, I
Not
agree.
planner.
I think
Sorry.
we're all reading this, and I do believe that this is specifically to do with the design aspect of it, not necessarily the zoning aspect of it.
okay. So
and
how do we get clarity? Do we just do yellow or?
I think we can do yellow for right now until we get some information back from Lawrence. If that works with everyone, I think that's a good way to approach this one right now.
I'll move that.
Okay. Second, Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8:15, Community Improvement Plan Review. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quick, I'd like this to move forward in green. I did not realize that the program ended end of 2000. Am I reading that right? End of 2018? Am I reading that? I don't think I'm reading that right,
You're right.
am I?
It does say 2014 and will no longer be enforced by the end of 2018.
I'm pretty sure that we gave a couple of businesses, especially the one at Kennedy, although maybe it was approved before 2018, so they were just waiting. Okay, good.
The one at Kennedy was approved before
Right,
2018.
right. So that's why. Okay, no, I think this, I mean, we still have our official plan and our promenade plan, and I think this is, we really want to continue this, and I don't think we used it very much, but I'd just like to move this forward as green.
Second, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Personally, I'd like to get a little bit more information on the effectiveness of the program. You know, in 2013, we brought on a consultant, Sierra Design, I think it was, and they produced a pretty extensive detail of the program, the benefits, the impact, you know, and really the goal was all to stimulate redevelopment. But as Councillor Humphreys mentioned, we haven't had a whole lot of uptake on the program as a whole. And before signing on to bring a consultant and bring a refresh to the program, I would like to have just a review of what's been done over the last 5 years or 4 years, and some analysis of the impact. What has been the benefit? Because we were setting aside a significant amount of money every year to fund this program. And, you know, I know we've done a few facade facelifts and so forth, but I would be more comfortable with getting an assessment of how the program worked over the last 5 years before greenlighting it to go forward, and also to kind of identify what were some of those challenges so we can figure out how to either improve it or enhance it, because there's got to be a little bit more to why it was such a struggle to get people to buy into the program. Because, you know, we all remember the consultant's report and him talking about, you know, every dollar invested is a return of X amount and so forth. And on the surface, great plan. You know, it's, you know, utilized so well in so many other municipalities. I'm not totally convinced why we had such a, or totally understand why we had such a struggle here. And so I would appreciate a little bit more information of an assessment of the current status of it before greenlighting a consultant to come in and refresh the current one.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Okay, who seconded
Boy,
that?
that was easy.
Who seconded that? Councillor Gardner? Are you okay with that, Councillor Gardner? Okay, Councillor Humphreys, you had a question?
So I'm okay with, in fact, I was going to ask how you know, to get information, how the program performed. I was just going to ask for it. But I think, yeah, you're right. I think I'd like to know what we did to, I don't think we did much of a communication job on this, because whenever I spoke to new businesses, they didn't know. And people were renovating, they had no idea. I didn't know, and so I was like, call, apply, you know. So I think if we look at that aspect, maybe we'll find out places to make sure that this is well utilized.
Okay.
Thanks.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8:16, Engineering Design Criteria Manual Update. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the the great things about budget time is it's very informative and educational, and I learn about things that I don't know about. And what else would you learn unless you don't know anything about that? And so this was, I was gonna just turn the page on this item, but then I thought, you know what, I can't approve something that I don't even understand. And so if, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Mahale, if you can tell us, put some context behind what the design criteria manual is, please.
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the design criteria manual looks and establish design criteria regarding grading, stormwater management, buried pipelines, sanitary sewers, storm sewers, water main, lighting, and this design criteria manual is being updated regularly, small updates. However, at an interval of 5, 7, 10 years, we need to do a comprehensive review of the design criteria manual and look at what other municipalities are including in there, how they address certain issues regarding design of municipal infrastructure and servicing and roads.
Thank you.
Councilor Kim?
Thank you. And I would imagine that these types of designs, you know, for pipes and other infrastructure capital, there is like standard designs, and these are designs that are utilized in other municipalities.
Yes.
So why can't we lift these designs from other municipalities? Just like if I were to buy an HP laptop with an Intel 7 core, some might have an AMD, or some might have a different processor, or you know, different measurements. How is this different from? Why do we need a consultant to update this manual in that way, as opposed to lifting it from another?
For you, Mr. Mayor, last time we updated this design criteria manual was in 2009, and it was done in-house. It was a considerable time from the engineering staff to do that, and after that we followed regularly with a lot of updates. This time, if council approves, I would like to go with an engineering consultant and do a background research and see what other municipalities are how they are addressing certain aspects of the design criteria manual. I didn't mention, but this includes a lot of technical drawings, and we take certain approved Ontario OPSS, OPSD, Ontario engineering drawings and specifications, and we customize it for Aurora, and other municipalities and regions are doing the same. So we need to look at what we have to upgrade and review in this design criteria manual. Certainly, we can do it in-house. That will be a longer process, but it can be done in-house, like
Kim?
we've done it last time.
Okay, thank you. And because the our inventory of buried pipelines and roadway systems, they've been around for a long time, other than the newer neighborhoods like the last 10 years, I guess 2B and now 2C. Are we just adding new design criteria from those newer neighborhoods, or are we bringing in kind of engineering designs for our older neighborhoods as well for those infrastructure?
We look at, through you, Mr. Mayor, we look at certain materials, we look at certain technologies, things change in the industries, new materials are being approved by Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Transportation, so we look at all these and we update and revise this, the design criteria manual and the buried pipe document. So that's the reason it's always better when we do a comprehensive review of this design criteria manual to have a consultant to help navigate all these all these updates and reviews that are being done by other approving agencies. And also, we are approached by a lot of salesperson regarding different materials that we can use in our infrastructure. So a comprehensive review at what is out there, what is economical and more efficient when we build the infrastructure would be a good thing. But definitely, again, I stress the fact that it can be done in-house.
Okay.
It will be council decision if they want to proceed with approving these, or we can do it in-house.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. And I guess my last point would be, it seems like the intrinsic value that we receive from getting this done externally is the industry-wide knowledge and the most up-to-date, design characteristics. That's the value we receive. And the other variable that I'm looking at is how long would it take if it were to be done in-house? If we take out the best practices and the industry practice and design component of it, how long would this take?
It will probably, through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, it will probably take 2 or 3 times more than with the engineering consultant specialized that has done this probably a number of times for other municipalities and regions.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
So
Sorry.
I would say instead of having this done in probably 4 months, will take a year or a year and a half, because it's being done in-house by engineering staff that have also other responsibilities.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Well, I think you won me over. Because that much staff time diverted to doing this will take away from their current responsibilities, and I know that we run a tight ship. So I'll table the green.
Okay. Second, Councillor Humphreys. Did you want to speak to this, Councillor Humphreys? Yeah, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Miguel, I appreciate all your background. In fact, I read this and I wasn't too concerned, but I love the fact that you mentioned we didn't do it. We didn't have this done since 2009, so that's 10 years without having an external source come in and do. So this is virtually an inventory of all our buried, the pipes and. Just to clarify, it's our.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it's not an inventory. Is how we
go about
build them. Okay. What type of materials? What are the detailed design drawings, and what is out there new that we have to take into account that is already accepted by other municipalities and regions and
so best practices, best choice, best approach, and the newest innovation.
Best management practices, design criteria, technical specifications.
Perfect. No, I think that's very critical. And we go to our FCM, we usually walk around and see all these different vendors, describing the newest, latest, and greatest materials that your engineer should be looking at, and preparing our infrastructure to be like the best it can be. So, no, I'm for $50,000, I think it's a very good investment, and we're going to get a lot out of it. And there's 10 years that we haven't done something like this. Plus, thank you for asking those questions, Councillor Kim, because I appreciate understanding the staff time as well. Thanks.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I think it's important. Yeah, it's not very often staff, although it has been said that staff would do something in-house instead of hiring a consultant, so thank you for that.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next we have 817, photometric analysis and lighting gap. Councillor Gardner.
I had a lot of trouble with this one because when we went to LED lights, I walked all the way down Murray because Murray had been complaining, some parts of Murray had been complaining the lights weren't strong enough. And only one of the residents noticed that the lights had been upgraded. So I found that very strange. So the question is, Do you consider, are the residents complaining, and is this considered a safety issue?
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do have complaints,
Okay.
and this is considered a safety issue.
Okay,
Councilor Garner?
then I'll green it, thanks.
Second? Might as well not break from tradition, Councilor Humphreys. Councilor Humphreys? Councilor Thompson?
Thank you. I'm not sure if Banker can answer this or not, but when we went through the LAS process and we had a $3 million price tag for the retrofit of all of the lights in town, I thought that they were doing an audit as part of that whole process. And so I struggle a bit when I read that, we're identifying substandard lighting. Would that not have been identified through that whole lighting process of all of the town's lights?
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, they replaced LAS, and the contract with LAS replaced lights from HPS to LED 1-to-1. They didn't do an assessment, a photometric analysis. They didn't look where the lights are substandard, which are the streets that are substandard.
So just so I'm clear then, so we paid people to install substandard lights?
No, we paid them to replace from HPS to LED. And
We're saying that they're substandard, and so we went through a whole process. and asked
certain area have dark spots, and this is the purpose of this analysis, to identify where we have dark spots, and we can add luminaires, we can add high light standards to improve the lighting, but LAS did not do. This was specifically said when we started with LAS, they will not look at where we have dark spots or where it's a photometric analysis needed. They will not do that.
I guess, it'd probably be good to go back and look at those reports and see actually if it was called out, because to me, I don't know, it's just my own sense, it's common sense. If we were going to do such a massive project, that we would just have rolled it in at the time too, to identify those dark spots or those substandard spots and done it all at once rather than now breaking it out in a second. Philosophically, I look at it and I struggle with this, because we went through a huge process to do a retrofit of all our lights, but yet now we've come back and said, well, why just don't know why we didn't do it all at once. And it's not a reflection back on staff, it's just the program that we went through, and I'll have to read through those LAS reports to see whether or not it was even identified that, hey, here are the next steps, or here are the gaps in doing this, because the whole idea was not just energy efficiency, but to improve. And so, to me, it's a miss on our part. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Councilor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I guess, to Anka. It says that to provide funding for photometric study in the older areas of Aurora. What does that mean? What are the older areas? And what's defined as old?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do not expect to find any issues in 2B, in 2C lands, more maybe in the areas that were built in 50s and 60s west of Yonge Street. So these are the areas where, and most of the streets probably have good lighting, but we need, or they had good lighting at the time when the street was built. Standards change constantly, so we might find some dark spots and needs to upgrade the lighting in certain area of a street. But these are the areas where we, if the project is approved, where we will ask the consultant to focus.
Councilor Gallo?
And this $100,000 is only to do the study. What would come after that is obviously recommendations to new light standards or whatever methods to increase the lighting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, maybe offline I'll give you a sample of where there's too much lighting. It is. I don't know how that happens. Literally meters apart.
I'll go with Councilor Kim before I go to Councilor Gartner for a second time.
Thank you. It is kind of frustrating to hear this. I thought, the LAS episode was over, but because, I'm happy to I was happy to find out that we did collect all the, the loss efficiencies and from PowerStream and so all the efficiencies that we were told we were going to receive, we did receive them, I believe, and so I'm happy with that. But when a contractor comes in to fix my furnace, normally they like to collect more money, and they'll look around and say, hey, you got a humidifier, it looks like you haven't changed the filter in a while, you think you need to change the filter, and then they'll say, hey, your HVAC looks like it might need a little cleaning, and they'll try to upsell some cleaning, and you think when LAS is just replacing light bulbs, and they had the expertise to do other things, that you think that they would say, hey, there are some dark spots, and while we're doing this, we'd be happy to offer our services and put up some more street lamps for these dark spots. So that's kind of disappointing that all they do is exactly what they were assigned to do, as opposed to look at efficiencies while they're doing their existing work. I'm not sold on approving this. Unless people have really complained about dark spots in their neighborhoods, I'm fine with one time, let's go over there and add another street light or two. But to just have to pay $100,000 just to kind of identify dark spots, I don't think it's good value. It's almost like going to my dealership and saying, we're going to inspect your brakes, inspect this, inspect that, and charge you $250. And I asked them, did you actually replace anything? And they said, no, we just inspected. And so I think of this in the same way. Unless there's a problem and it's highlighted by some residents, I'm not prepared to spend more money on this. And so I'm not ready to approve this at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner.
Hi, I've changed my mind on this. If we're trying to find problem areas and dark spots, can't we just walk around and see that? Like, it's $100,000.
Councillor Gardner, do you want to be tasked with walking around the town?
I mean, sure, I'll help out. I mean, we can go with a light meter. It's $100,000. I don't know. I mean, how many hours do you think this is going to take someone? Uncle, I know it's not exactly a fair question, but I can't rationalize the amount of money, because they're basically looking for substandard lighting, which is pretty easy to see.
For you, Mr. Mayor, it's a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How they are going to do it, or how a consultant will go about establishing these dark spots, what is involved in the photometric analysis. I can clarify these, but
Sure.
so they will go on the street and they will measure the intensity of the street, and they will measure the distance between the poles. And although the distance is a standard distance, sometimes the standards get modified. So what was built in late 40s, 50s, and 60s, sometimes is not what we build now in 2C. So they will gather all these raw data, height of the pole, distance between poles, intensity of the light on the pavement and on the sidewalk too. And they will put this data into a software, and the software gives the area where it's lit and gives the intensity of the light, and in such a way that the light is standard, it's lit properly, it's not too bright. So we will have areas that are properly lit, standardly lit, and areas that are dark spots. And in that area, they will look if we need to add a light standard, or we need to add, if there is a hydropole, an arm and luminaire on the hydropole, if there is enough room to have a new attachment on the hydropole. This is how they do this photometric analysis. However, this can be done based on complaints. If we have a complaint, we can go or more complaints on a street, we can go and do this on that street and identify if we have an issue. because we wouldn't know, we wouldn't be able to tell it's an issue or not. It needs to be done through a photometric analysis that shows the intensity of the light on the street. And also how it is the pavement lit and how it is the sidewalk, because both have to be lit properly.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. That was a very good explanation. Sorry, I can't do it. I mean, if we've just replaced all these lights, so the LED lights are brighter. So I don't think we could be called irresponsible from a safety point of view. So I think we should do what you suggested, was wait for complaints. Although we don't have our lawyer here, we should find out if that has any insurance responsibilities. Thank you.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think to Councillor Kim's point, I think we maybe already have the infrastructure in place, and that's the residents, and along the same lines that you know, a communication strategy, maybe through this survey we're doing, or I don't know, add a question there to ask the public, you know, do you have any problems with lighting in your neighborhood, and identify them and then target into those areas, as opposed to doing all of Old Aurora. So maybe just some more thought to this, if we can utilize the residents in a positive way.
So does someone want to change what's on the floor? Who moved this, Viola? Councillor Gardner, you moved this? We can always just call the vote and then just do a new thing, so I'll just call the vote. All those in favor of agreeing? Opposed? Okay, that fails. Someone want to put something on the floor? Councillor Kim? Red? Second? Councillor Gallo? All those in favor? Oh, Councillor Thompson. Just before the buzzer.
Thank you. I guess if you say red, you don't approve it, but then we're not doing anything. We've not directed staff to do any initiative if this is approved. And yes, we could ask the residents, yes, we could look for alternative means, but there's no direction to staff. You know, I think you'd be better off at least having a yellow and then directing staff to come back with a report about options to address this issue. I'm also curious, because I did look up the LAS report, and it talks about how the town will choose from numerous streetlight vendors and options a town-wide standard to best meet the international standard, i.e. SNARP 800, whatever current standard, and position itself to best address issues like safety and night sky and on and on. And this sense, looking at, I don't know enough, and I'll defer to the experts about how that standard integrates with what's being asked here in substandards. But I'd like to get some more information, and maybe options of other means to address this, because I don't get it. And I'm happy to take it offline, and I'll take it on personally with Hank and ask my questions. But if you do approve red, then what's the next step? There isn't any. So I would just say I would rather see yellow, have a report, have options, have staff come back to us.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that sort of just rings in terms of the impact of the organization. Streets with substandard lighting are not safe for pedestrians and can be a liability for our town. Just understand that a little bit. Like, obviously, if something happens and the person can't see, it's our town issue. So maybe a little bit more information is the right way to go, just to make sure if we do give this an ultimate red, we'll know more when it comes back. Thanks.
Councillor Gallo?
Through you, to Anka, from a safety perspective, if someone identifies that there is a certain area of town that they believe does not have sufficient lighting, we don't need this motion for staff to go out there and look at it and adjust it from a safety perspective. And they would go in, just like they put the extra one over here. Nobody asked, and someone deemed it to be necessary, and it went in. You don't need this motion if there's if staff deems to be a safety issue, they'd go in and they'd fix it. Is that accurate? I mean,
Anka?
If someone asks has a complaint and comes to us and say, we need more light, the first thing we need to do a photometric analysis, because just to add more light or another pole or another arm in luminaire on an existing pole, we need to make sure that the street is uniformly lit. So it's unsafe to go from too much light into dark spots. So a photometric analysis will tell us where and we have to put more light in such a way to lit the street properly. So that's the need of a photometric analysis. If we have a complaint, we wouldn't add an arm because a resident suggests something. We need to have an analysis, and from there we'll know what to do. Maybe we need two light standards. Maybe we need to put 2 additional arms on existing poles. But a photometric analysis will tell us where is a need for more light.
so through you, Mr. Mayor, if someone did identify and staff did go out, do you not have the authority to get this photometric study done for that area and come up with a plan so that that area is safe? You don't need us to move anything in order for you to do that, I assume.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do not have a budget to do this photometric analysis. We cannot do it in-house. It needs to be a specialized software and an electrical engineer who signs on this photometric analysis. We do not have the expertise in-house, so we need to go out, and I do not have budget for this. So, however, when we rebuild streets, we look at the lighting too. So the streets that are being reconstructed, the light is assessed on it. The streets that the pavement is good, we do not, rebuild, these are the streets where we need to know where we stand if we have a complaint and how to address that complaint.
Councillor Gallo?
I don't know. I guess within the operations, I find it hard to believe we don't have the money to address the safety issue other than coming back to council to do that.
Can I make a suggestion to council that we go with yellow on this and get some additional information to come back to us? Is everyone good with that? Councillor Kim, did you want to speak to it?
I mean, I kind of like the color red. I mean, we've used a lot of green and a lot of yellow, and we essentially put in a lot of work back onto staff saying we need more information. And so I'm just trying to cut some of the excess, thinking, I agree, there's nothing wrong with more information, but I think ideally we'd like a lot more information on everything. And so if I had to put in a threshold, I'd say this would be that. If what I'm hearing from Ms. Mahale is that you need a budget to have a photometric analysis done just to replace one block or maybe like 2 lights, what I'm hearing is that since the very first street lamp went on in Aurora, we didn't have a lot of budget to do that, and it had to come from some ancillary budget. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Mahale, so in the past, have we never encountered any dark spots and staff had to go out in the middle of the year to replace or to add or replace street lamps?
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know that we've done assessments and photometric analysis on road reconstructions. I don't know how operations would address these issues if they have. It's not about replacing a light. It's about adding more light, and we need to know how much light and if it's okay to add more light. Sometimes we have a complaint that says, a resident that comes and says, in this area it's a dark spot, I need more light. And if we add that light, you know, the neighbor will say, no, I don't like it. I don't want a stadium here. I want a street. And I was happy with what was before.
Yeah.
Again, a photometric analysis will tell us if it's really a dark spot, or we have a liability, or it's okay.
Councillor Kim?
Yeah, I find that almost every aspect of the town or municipality has some form of liability, and you just have to kind of weigh the risk and rewards in terms of whether it's worth it. And I don't think that because it's slightly darker, someone's going to, it may happen, but I don't think, the risk reward is compelling enough for me to even get more information. And if we go out and leverage residents and say, whether they need more lighting, I think it's, maybe it's not the best illustration or flattering illustration, but it's almost like saying, hey, would you like more fries? Of course I'd like more fries. I'd rather you don't ask for it. I know that's not the most appropriate illustration, but I'm just saying that when we're trying to look after the town's fiscal condition, I think we need to be careful in terms of, what types of questions we ask and, the risk rewards. And for something like this, I don't think it warrants even more information because, red's there for a reason. And there's not many things in this capital budget we've red lighted. And so I'm happy to red light this one.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Kim. I'm going to call the vote on red. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. There's only one more option left, so I'll put, I guess someone will put yellow on the floor. Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 818, parking lot rehabilitation study. Councillor Gartner.
Again, this is a lot of money. Can't we just go and eyeball this and it's
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
yeah, that's
Okay.
they're parking lots. There must be some sort of criteria in place that we can use to evaluate this without spending $200,000. Through you,
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's not about looking at the condition of the pavement. It's more than that. We are trying to put an inventory of parking lots townwide. We have 26 parking lots, and we need to look at their condition, pavement, drainage. Some of them have infrastructure underground, sanitary, storm pipes, others even water main. So we need to CCTV the condition of the infrastructure. We need to see the condition of the pavement and the drainage and establish, have an assessment and established a list of recommendation with a list of capital projects for the future. What needs to be done to keep these parking lots in good condition.
Councillor
It is a conservative estimate. I'm responsible for this, but I put it conservative. It's conservative. It's a level D cost estimate for this study, given the fact that we have 26 parking lots off street, in the parks, adjacent to facilities. So we look at everything that we have and we establish a service level standard for maintaining and operating these parking lots.
Councillor Gardner?
do some of these parking lots have stormwater drainage functions under them?
They do. For example, the ACC has the one that we just rebuilt, has storm sewers, has sanitary sewer, and a water main.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. I just want to confirm that we're still going forward with the, the parking study in relation to Library Square and or the downtown, that this has no impact on that. Perfect, thank you.
That's correct, yeah. Correct, Anka? No.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no impact
No.
on that.
Okay, thank you.
CAO was nodding as well.
Yeah, where everyone was nodding. Councillor Gallo.
Can we not remove the community center, the ACC, the SARC? I mean, two of those have just been redone. The SARC is, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years old. I mean, those are big things that we've already done. It's $200,000. I just have a tough time swallowing that. I really do, to analyze. And this is just an analysis, a master plan of them. This is not whatever comes from that in terms of repair. Is obviously above that. I don't know.
That's fine. Councillor Gallo, and I'll kind of agree to, I mean, I don't know what everyone around the table wants to put on the floor, but I think that looking at some of the facilities, the SARC, as you mentioned, we are having discussions on possibly upgrading the facility, changing, the structure of the parking lot itself. So there might be things that we might be doing in the meantime and making some decisions that would alter some of the facilities. So do we really want to go down this road? So I agree with that, but I don't know. I'll leave it in council's hands as far as what they want to put on the floor. Council Humphreys?
Just a question to you, Mr. Mayor. Do we not have this skill in-house? Because we look at roads, our roads construction, aren't we the ones, or do we hire that?
Anka, do we hire a consultant to come
Through
look at
you,
our roads?
Mr. Mayor, we hire a consultant. We don't do this in-house.
So we don't have that expertise. Okay, thanks.
Well, we might have the expertise, but not to do for certain parts of this, not for everything.
Okay.
Thank you, Anka. Councilor Humphreys?
Well, if we need to do this, and maybe we would take into consideration what, we shouldn't be touching depending on future needs, maybe this could be a lesser amount of money for the study, but I think we need to move forward. With this, maybe with how do you even make it a yellow? It's either yes or no in this case, I think. So I'm not really quite prepared to say no.
Did you want to put something on the floor?
I'll put green.
Green. Anyone want to second that? Councillor Gardner? All those in favor? Green? Hands up high. 2, 3. Opposed? Fails. Someone want to put something else on the floor? Councillor Gallo?
Yeah, maybe yellow and have the tender come back and then make a decision then. Again, 3 of the facilities are relatively new. We just, maybe that's a question, we just redid the ACC and the community center, did we not? The community center, I'm pretty sure we did.
And the ACC was through Lake Simcoe, and they did an extensive
So would we remove those or at least a cursory review of that? Certainly not an in-depth review of those 3 large facilities, large parking facilities?
So Anka, do we have an understanding? I think council's saying we're okay with the RFP going out, but we would like it to come back to council.
Yes, and present
with the full scope and everything.
The full scope of work and pricing, and then council will make a decision.
Council, is that what everyone's fine with that? So it's yellow with the RFP coming back to us once for our approval with the full scope. Okay. Second it. Councilor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Storm Sewer Reserve Fund and Rate Study, 819. Councilor Gardner.
So what I understand from this report is that we've done phase 1. And phase 1 is identifying alternative approaches with respect to charging the residents more money.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the consultant reviewed what other municipalities are doing in terms of storm utility, and they look at what we have right now. We have this flat rate that was implemented in Aurora in since 1998, one of the first municipalities in Ontario to do that. However, we need to look at an approach that is fair, because now we have a flat rate that is the same for residential and another flat rate that is the same for industrial commercial businesses. So the recommendation of the consultant, and we'll present a report to council soon, is to continue to have a storm utility, however, to look at other approaches to have this more fairer approach in terms of, instead of having a flat rate, to have it based on property size and imperviousness.
Thank you. And we talked about a lot of this before, like you and I talked about this, but it says here that that phase one was to recommend an approach. Okay, assess, evaluate new alternative funding approaches and recommend an approach that will ensure the town's stormwater program is funded in a sustainable manner. So we already have decided on what approach would be the best to fund it.
Mr. Mayor, yes, the consultant has recommended what approach to follow. However, this will be presented in a report to council soon.
Yes, but I mean, it's almost looks to me like we're going to be paying someone to try and sell the public and the businesses on the importance of this, of changing the funding model.
For you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we have to put together a communication plan to answer in front of the community,
Because
and
it's
to get approval to change.
So we're expecting that there's going to be unhappiness, that we're going to have to charge more money, is what I'm thinking. So there's going to be a problem trying to convince the community that that has to happen. So we're going to hire a consultant to help us do that.
Yes, to put a communication plan, and definitely will be more money, but will be more money for larger properties or properties that have a more impervious area, and less for smaller properties. That's the fair approach here. Now we have a flat rate, so a townhouse pays the same as a residential, big residential lot, or a small plaza in a business area pays the same flat rate as a big business owner.
That's definitely not fair, and maybe it will convince people to install more impervious surfaces and less.
Based on a new updated storm utility. Now, on a flat rate,
Right,
we
okay.
cannot implement an incentive program.
Okay, so we may end up helping the environment in the. Sounds good to me.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Sorry, just to be clear, so we've already adopted a change in methodology, as a result of phase one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. The report will come soon to council for this.
So I guess my only comment then is that, before moving forward with a communication strategy, I would like to see council weigh in and make that decision first. One thing we learned through the clear bag issue was that, a consultant was brought on, money was spent, and a lot of ads went out through the paper and different things to promote clear bags, and at the end of the day, council said no to clear bags, even though money was spent on the consultant to convince the public to do clear bags. And so I just don't want to get ahead of ourselves and have a repeat of that issue. I'd like to see council weigh in and make a decision first, whichever way it goes, and then look at the communication strategy and not put the cart before the horse.
So does anyone want to put something on the floor? Councillor Gardner? Yellow? Second? Councillor Thompson? Did you want to say it?
That phase one report that's coming back, or are we looking for something
Well,
other than
I'll
what's
ask
supposed to come?
I'll ask the mover.
To do exactly what you suggested. Was for us to get the report back, make a decision, and then go from there.
So as long as we're talking about the report that
Yeah, it's.
Yes.
shortly anyways.
Mr. Mayor, it will be a report. It's yellow based on the report that's coming probably March 19 or April.
Okay, perfect. Second, Councillor Thompson? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries, and look at that, we're at the last one, 8:20. Corporate Energy Management Plan, Councillor Gardner, you pulled that, and we have a staff recommendation of agreeing.
Sorry, Anka and I have discussed this, and I'm okay with it.
So you'd like to put
I'm
green?
put it as a green, thank you.
Okay, second? Councillor Humphreys? Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, yeah, wait, don't go there. All those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Thank you, councillors. You have a motion. I will hear you very quickly. Go right ahead. Just let her speak.
You
I
can
wanna
do
see
that
what
here.
I want to see what you.
No, so it's really quick, guys. So I'd like to know if I can put this on the table as something for capital budget consideration. I don't think it's going to be huge, but there is a bunch of residents that are concerned about turtle population on Henderson and potentially other locations in Aurora, and we need to find a way to help protect these species at risk. So the LSRC has done some information, but we don't have all the details on what we can do. There's all kinds of ideas, right? You know how they have. So what I'd like, if can staff go back, take a peek at this, and come back with a report on what it's going to cost for us to do this. I know we can do this. We've done this before. I did it before. I've done it before. I got sidewalks and golf lanes because of it.
Councillor, I would suggest you put forward a notice of motion. on
Really? A
Yes.
separate one? But I want to make it meet this. Okay.
We can still get it in. There's lots of time. We're
Okay,
not going to be
perfect.
approving this budget till probably late March, so you have time.
Perfect.
Whatever.
Excellent. Because these
Okay.
guys go, the season starts in May, so.
Pardon? Councillor, Mr. Gardner.
Our initial hope was to bring it late February.
Well, late February.
The capital budget.
Next Tuesday.
So next Tuesday, we're approving this?
That was the hope, yeah.
I know.
Well, we can approve it, but we can also add something if we have to through a notice of motion. Right? Correct.
We can always do an additional in-year capital
Yes.
project approval.
Yes.
For sure.
I just don't think that it's the right time right now
Okay.
to get into a long discussion
Sure.
in regards, because I think that warrants a bit
I
of a
agree.
discussion around the table.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And
I'm
I
good.
would also ask that maybe our representative on Lake Simcoe could bring some additional information to us when that notice of motion does come.
Okay, and actually, through you, Mr. Mayor, they've already given us a bunch of information. So I'll put a motion together. We'll do that, and then
Thank you.
as long as we could find, but hopefully we can find budget
We'll
to hit this.
We'll see what
It's
we
just
can do.
timing's everything, right?
see what we can do.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I would call for a motion to adjourn. Oh, Councillor Gardner.
Could I suggest that everybody at the council table read, I think it's tab 9. It's called the State of Maturity Report. It's very interesting and it's very important, and I'm hoping at some future time I could discuss it.
You mean tab 10.
Tab 10, then, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Gallo. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned.